All right, here we go. Today we have Albert Hughes of the legendary Hughes brothers. Welcome to VladTV.
Oh, thank you. This is your part 2, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we just did your brother.
Yeah. When was that?
This was maybe about a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah. You just did the Dear Mama documentary.
Yep, seen it.
And now we got a call from your people, and here we are.
Did you get the screeners?
Yes. And
Did
I
you
watched
watch
them.
You did?
I did.
Oh,
I
cool.
did.
Oh, I have a question before we start. Sorry.
Yes.
I was going to correct something for you before you got started.
Okay.
You were right about it, if you want to know.
Okay, let's go.
So you were talking about the history of how we started with my brother, and he was talking about my student films that I did in LA City College, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was called The Drive-By. One was called Menace II Society,
Mm-hmm.
right? No relation to the movie. It was my brother's idea to take that title and put it on the movie. Then you said, hey, did you get that from the Ice Cube lyric?
Mm-hmm.
And my brother's like, no, it had nothing to do with it. You were right. He was wrong.
Okay, and you guys made a couple of short films first,
That's right.
right? And one of them was called Menace to Society, even though it wasn't the movie Menace to Society.
Yeah.
Was that based off of the Ice Cube line?
No.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm a menace to society.
Yeah.
Girls in biker
Which is
shorts are so fine to me. That's what I thought it was from. But
You're
no.
a real hip-hop head. I love that shit.
Oh, yeah.
No, Menace Society. Listen, let's go back to high school for a second. When I was in high school, there was a TV production class. And the assignment was go home and make a how-to video. Make how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. How to put your inner tube on your bicycle. And I was insulted because by that time, me and my brother had already been making our little films for since 84. This is 1988, 1989. And I went and we made How to Be a Burglar. And I had my Bruce Lee suit from Enter the Dragon, not the yellow one from the Fraudulent movie, the black one. And we did this whole thing with Beverly Hills Cop music and our 2 Dobermans, pinchers chasing me and getting in, whatever. So cut to LACC when Albert's at LACC Film School in 1990, 91. The assignment was, I want you guys to take a Super 8 camera and shoot a chase sequence. And my brother was like, how about I do a film about a guy that goes to the Ready Teller and he's leaving the Ready Teller and some gangbanger just gets him in the alley and beats the shit out of him. And we did like the Raging Bull, blood effects, and this, that, and the other. This is the first time we got our hands on film. And then I wouldn't let the guy, I was the victim. I played the victim. And then it turns into this incredible chase sequence. So that's what the film Menace to Society, the short film was. Nothing to do with the song, nothing to do with the movie. It came from MC Ren and CPO, Ballad of a Menace. And Ice Cube is sampled.
Exactly.
Menace, right?
Yep.
From, what's the song that he did? That was from
Menace.
I Ain't the One.
Girls in biker shorts are so fly to me. Yeah, I ain't the one. Yeah.
I Ain't the One. Or what was the title? Is that the title of the song?
Yeah, I ain't the one. The one that
Yeah,
get played like a poop butt, from the streets. Yeah.
So you were right.
I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then-
it was such an iconic lyric that, I wouldn't be surprised that that's how it was used. Yeah.
That was it. And then he had the idea, though, to his credit, to move that title to the movie because the original title to Menace was Rampage.
Oh, Menace is way better.
Yeah.
Way better. Rampage.
And then we went to the swap meet to get hats made.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we came up with the idea of let's do the Roman numeral 2 instead of, so there you go.
Okay.
You were right.
Well, this is your first time here, so I want to start in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So you guys were born in Detroit, Armenian mother, black father.
Yep.
But they divorced when you guys were 2?
Yeah, I think it was 2.
Okay. And then that's when you guys moved after that?
We moved in 1980, right before Reagan got voted into office.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were living in Detroit, even though my father and my mother had divorced, we would see him off and on because there's kind of a misnomer or stories about us that our father wasn't in our life. He was there. He was just in and out, basically hustling and doing odd jobs and stuff like that. And we always wanted to move out west for 2 reasons. One was we wanted to be cowboys because we were young, right? So we told our mom we want to move out west, we want to be cowboys. And the other one was we wanted to be in the movie business, but we thought we were going to be in front of the camera, right? Mm-hmm. And she kept saying, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to do that, right? And then one day she decided to up and leave. And a lot of it had to do with Detroit at the time, what was going on, and my father and her being, in a complex relationship. And so we had to stay with our father for a few months.
as she came out and set up in California. And we were on welfare at the time. And so she came out here. She was working at the burger stand in West Covina on welfare. And we had a pretty rough summer that summer with our father in Detroit. That was pretty scary. And then we were
Scary how?
Well, he put us, and I don't blame my father for this, and I'm glad we went through it. He brought us to this house of an uncle of ours who had a girlfriend, and it was her house, and she had 2 kids. And it was in the ghetto. And Detroit, you have to understand, was like, it used to be a big boom town because of the auto industry, the great migration of black auto workers moving from the South. And at this time in the 70s, it was bombed out and it was hell, right? And you could actually be living in a mansion and be on welfare and poor, but you're in a 5-bedroom mansion filled with rats, right? And this was one of those houses we were put in. Our father dropped us off and he left. And my uncle, his name was Army, his nickname, got into an argument with his girlfriend. He left. She has 2 kids and us now. And the house smelled like piss. So we're like, why does this house smell like piss? And why does their bedroom, these kids' bedroom, smell like piss? Now, in hindsight, I know because she abused them and she abused us. She would beat our ass every day, right? But the first night, what she said to us was, you guys are sleeping on the couch and keep your shoes on. Because if you take your shoes off, the rats will eat your feet.
Damn.
So we were huddled up on the couch, and our mom was always protective of us. We had a pretty good life, even though we were poor. And we literally saw like rats battling each other on the living room floor. We're just freaked out by this. So we had to live there in those conditions before we came to California. And as a kid, it feels like you were there forever, but it probably was a couple months. And what she would do is she would only have 1 sandwich for all of us at lunch, all 4 kids, cut it into 4, give it to, won't eat for the rest of the day until dinner time. Then dinner came, and she would actually do this very traditional dinner. She'd make the dinner, we'd all sit at the table, and we'd have to watch her eat the dinner first. And then we could eat after her, right? So this went on for some time. And then the final week we were there, I think, my uncle came back. She had made beef stroganoff, I remember. She went upstairs to have an argument with him. It lasted 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And we're just looking, we're starved. We haven't eaten anything. Finally, we're taking this ass kicking. We just eat all the food, right?
Ate all the beef
We ate all the food. Then finally, my dad came to pick us up and took us to the airport. And we're off to California. Landed at LAX. Back then, you could pull up to the curbside. I get in the front seat. My brother gets in the back seat. And she looks down at my legs. It's summertime. And she's like, Albert, what happened to your legs? I'm like, oh, there was this woman. She wouldn't feed us. She'd beat our ass every day. She was like, and when I saw that look in hindsight, I go, that's why she moved. And that's why we didn't see our father for 5 years. She saw my legs and it was a wrap,
Wow.
Yeah.
So 5 years, no dad.
Yeah.
That affect you guys?
Yeah, I guess it's like my daughter always says, like, oh, we had a traumatic childhood, but I always say I wouldn't take any of it back. Even those ass whippings from that woman, I wouldn't take back because we got a dose of what some people get their whole childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, when somebody asks where's your pops at, and you can't say, you don't know why at that age. You don't know why that. Now I know with adulthood why my mom made that decision.
Okay, so you guys are living in Southern California, and your mom gives you a video camera when you guys are 12?
It started first where she rented a video camera from this local video store. And we stayed up for 24 hours doing everything from like Johnny Carson in search of like silly shit. But the first time we turned on the camera, on the camera rental, we were doing some spaceship kind of short inside of a closet. And then returned the camera. We start going through some issues with our mother. And she finds my father because she wants to kind of scoot us off to him for a while to get a break. And he happens to be in Lakewood, California, out here looking for us. He's been out here for years looking for us, right? So we go live with him, and there's some issues there too. We got a half brother living there, his new girlfriend. And at this time, my mom was also transitioning from like being poor and on welfare to owning her own business and becoming quite successful at it, right? And so she picks us up one day and she goes, I bought a video camera. And we're like, oh, can we use it? She's like, yeah, you can use it, but I want you guys to know it's not your camera. It belongs to my business. We're like, oh, okay. So we start using the camera. Years later, we realize She never bought it for her business. She bought it for us, but she told us that to make us respect the camera.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you guys started making short films, and I guess you made a film at school called How to Be a Burglar.
Yeah, that was my brother. What was interesting, it was in high school. Okay, so we're already making videos. I wouldn't call them films now because, it's a video camera. And we didn't know the difference between the chemical process of film and video and why our little shorts look like soap operas. Like, we didn't like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing that at the age of 12. Then we get into high school. And at the time, I was enrolled in TV production class, and my brother was in the theater class for acting. And I didn't like the TV production class, and he didn't like theater, so we switched.
Mm.
And then he started doing the shorts, How to Be a Burglar, and a couple of things we worked on there. And I didn't have no business being in theater, by the way, either, with his nose. So, yeah, that's the way it worked.
Okay. So you guys are getting ready to graduate high school, but your brother ends up having a baby at 18. So did you guys actually graduate, or did you guys drop out?
We dropped out in the 11th grade. I dropped out because I got some poor, unfortunate girl pregnant.
Oh, you got someone pregnant also?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's not this one.
Your daughter's over here to the right.
My daughter's over here. This is the right one.
Wait, so you and your brother both had babies at the same time?
No, mine didn't make it.
Oh.
Sorry. I mean,
Okay, abortion.
Yeah. Mine was me first. And then Alan was after that. But we got to the 11th grade, and at that point, because of the California Detroit move, we had got held behind one grade. So we kind of were frustrated with school. I was an A-B student. My brother was a more struggling type of student. And I had this teacher I didn't like, and I had that pregnancy situation. So I'm like, I'm out of here. I already know what I want to do. So I started touring colleges. And I figured back then, they said if you do community college and you get good grades, you can transfer to a 4-year.
Yep.
So that was the plan. The plan didn't work out because I barely did a year in film school, and we were off to the races doing music videos. So
okay, so your first music video was what?
Raw Fusion, Money B, Raw Fusion, and
DJ Fuse and Money B. Yeah.
Say again.
DJ Fuse and Money B.
Yeah.
Raw
and
Fusion.
that's the story my brother was telling you about the first time we worked and how we met Digital Underground and Tupac and whatnot, right? But you had to roll back because in that year in film school, I did 3 films. Mm-hmm. 2 on Super 8, 1 in 16. One was called The Drive-By, and one was called Menace, that you got the right title to. Mm-hmm. And then there was another one called Point Blank. But I was so advanced by then, and my brother wasn't in film school with me, that we kind of knew what we were doing, but we just didn't know the technical terms. So all my films were voted best of the year, even though I still only did 1 year. It was a 2-year program. And this is the other story that Alan should have told you, but he was rushed for time. We were trying to figure out how to get into the business. By then we knew we wanted to be filmmakers, not music video directors. We knew we wanted to be filmmakers. So back when I was in film school, I was painfully shy and introverted. And my brother was more the extrovert. And one of my friends said, I want to show your film at my film party this weekend. So we go there, we show, it was Menace. And one of my classmates, her name is Kelly, her boyfriend, his name is Tom, was related to Tamara Davis. That was his sister. Tamara Davis did a lot of hip hop videos back then and did a few movies. Mm-hmm. And he comes up to me and says, hey, you need to meet my sister. She can help you get into music videos. And I'm kind of shy and backing up. I don't know what to do. I'm like, ugh. And my brother, had it not been for my brother, we probably wouldn't be in the business. He just grabs him, puts him against the wall. Give me your number. Give me all the information, right? Cut to the next week. Tamara wants to meet us because she's seen the films now. She wants to meet us at Astro Burger on Melrose next to Paramount. So we're sitting there with her, and there's this guy with her that's eating French fries and ketchup's all falling over his mouth. She's like, who the fuck is this guy? This guy's a slob. We don't know who this guy is, right? She's talking to us about how to build a reel. Come to find out, it's Mike D from the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
Who eventually became her husband. We didn't know. We knew the Beastie Boys. We were fans of the Beastie Boys, but I didn't recognize Mike D. Just sitting there eating French fries with ketchup falling over the place, right? And then we start going over to her house, and she starts showing us how to build a reel. And we're hanging out with the Beastie Boys now and their girlfriends. And They're doing pool parties, smoking weed, but they're cool guys. They're all fantastic guys. So the start of our career was because of her and because of that circle with the Beastie Boys and hanging out. I think they lived in the hills of Los Feliz over there. And then we started sending the tapes around to like Delicious Vinyl, Hollywood Records, whatever record company. We'd literally go drop them off. And there was one day my brother and I are on the freeway going to Disney to drop it off on Dopey Lane at Hollywood Records. And we're going to just blow an argument. And I'm like, this is not worth it. Nothing's going to happen. This is fucked up. And we're just yelling at each other on the way over. He's driving. And we dropped the tape off there at Hollywood Records. And we go back home. And my mom was the kind of mother like, you got to get up and put 5 applications in. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And don't be sleeping when I come home. You got to be doing chores. So we're sleeping. And anytime she would show up, we just get up and act like we're doing something. So one day we're sleeping, early afternoon, and the phone rings. And I hear my brother in the other room talking. And I know that's our first job. Is this guy named, we never give this guy enough credit, and he needs to know, his name is Chris LaSalle. He was the A&R guy at Hollywood Records at the time. And he's the one that called and gave us our first job. And that's how it happened, yeah.
And that was Raw Fusion.
That was Raw Fusion. Then we fly up, we have to write the treatment, because we never done that before, write the treatment, fly up to Oakland, stay in the Tenderloin in San Francisco for some reason. And boy, was that an eye-opener.
That's the host role.
We got back there on American Pimp.
Yeah, full circle.
Yeah. And we were so excited that we stayed up even 24 hours before we even had to shoot. But before then, my brother gets these details a little blurry too. And I understand why. Because he tells about the difference between a pancake house and a Waffle House. One version is we met them all at a pancake house in San Francisco. No, it was actually a Waffle House, not the Waffle House. A Waffle House in East Oakland. It was Money B. Hughes, Shock may have been there, a few other guys, and then there was Tupac, who was at the other end of the table with this magnetic personality, but he's playing the Dozens. And, you know, I don't know if most of your audience knows what the Dozens is, like crack your mama jokes and whatever. He was destroying everybody. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? This guy's like crazy personality and funny as hell. Like even when you hear Hit 'Em Up and you hear him talking shit and Hit 'Em Up, he was the best shit talker even back then, basically, right? So then my brother actually told the part of the story of how we hooked up with Tupac and got the, you know, if you want to do your little shh.
Yep. Yep.
Back to 91, I'm in the bathroom at the Pancake House and Tupac comes in there and we're both pissing and he says, I just signed a record deal. I saw your 2 short films, Menace II Society and Drive-By, and I want you guys to do my first music video. First of all, I was already taken with him, but I didn't believe him. You're like, yeah, whatever, dude. But I'm taken with the guy. In fact, so much so the next day when we show up to do the music video, I'm asking, where's Tupac? Where's Tupac? Where's Tupac? I don't want to start before Tupac shows up because I want to put him in the center of the first scene we're doing. Yeah.
Okay, so Tupac approaches your brother and says, I just got signed Interscope and I want you guys to do my videos. And because Tupac was actually in the Raw Fusion video as well, right?
Yeah, he was in the intro and throughout the video, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so the Eazy-E thing, when does that come about? Is that before or after shooting Pac's first video?
That was before. So we start putting the tapes everywhere to get into the business, right? And then there's a black music video production company called Underdog Production that was on Pico, right across the street from Roscoe's. Puts us on the roster. Now we're on the roster. And what happens in that few months is, first of all, and this relates, you have to remind me to tell you about NWA's reaction to Ice Cube and Boys in the Hood, because we were there the night it was released with NWA. Okay. So we're there and we haven't directed anything. We're 18 years old. And we find out NWA shooting in downtown LA, always into something. And this producer who's producing the video, line producing the video, we know her, but she can't stand us, right? So this is how, I guess, youth is bold. Like, you don't understand what you don't know. We're just like, fuck, we're gonna go show up to that music video set. Let's take my tape of my student films and let's meet our heroes. So we show up to this warehouse and there's Eazy-E, Ren, Dr. Dre, Yella, DOC, who's lost his voice by now, right? And they're all drinking 40s. Easy's not drinking. it's DOC is going pretty hard, right? And we now know why, right? And they're sitting at a bank of monitors, and we look at them like, fuck it. We just go sit down right next to them. What's up? What's up? What's up with you guys? Like, easy, man. We got this tape. Put it in. Put it in. They watch the drive-by. They watch Menace II Society. And they're like, whoa, what the fuck is this? What the? Easy's like, give me your number.
Huh.
I'm also an extra in that video getting shot by Easy.
Oh, really?
Okay? At the end of Always Into Something, there's a guy that takes a bullet and flies back into some boxes. That's me.
That's you.
Yeah. They brought their own guns. Like they'd bring, like Dr. Dre and Easy would bring their own cases, and then the armorer would put the blanks in. And in fact, I took some buckshot from Easy's gun in one of those takes, right?
Wow. Okay.
And from that day forward, Easy would call us up and want to hang out.
Huh.
And we're like, what? This is our hero. We're going to go hang out with him. But at that time, we didn't know what we all know now about Dre being pulled away from Suge. We do remember that there's a lot of things. Like one is he had like a crash house in Norwalk, like a normal house at the side of the freeway where he actually was very comfortable going. And there was that guy's name, a DJ that used to be around them back in the day. DJ something.
Wait, you're talking about, he was actually in NWA?
No.
Arabian Prince?
No, he was one of the guys in the inner circle. You've heard his name before.
Not Alonzo.
Nope, but he wasn't around. It was a guy I got to remember his name, but I forgot. So everybody would be hanging out at the crash house, right? Then he would have the mansion in Calabasas in a gated community. And the house next door was Jerry Heller.
Mm.
You go up around the corner, it's Dr. Dre. Okay, and some of those pool parties and MTV were done at that house, right? So at this time, he would call us and say, come down to the Norwalk house. We drive down there. We get in his 850, the white BMW that you actually see in Straight Outta Compton. And we just drive with him all day, every day. And he was about like women. That's all. Up the freeway, every exit, he had a girl. He had a girl.
Yeah, I heard.
We'd wait, come out, blah, blah. But it gets interesting with his AIDS story. So one day we were at the Norwalk house, and there was a fax machine coming through. And we're like, what's up with that? He's like, oh man, it's Dre. Fucking Dre trying to get this guy. Came with some baseball bats and stuff at the studio. And he's telling us this, but we don't.
He's talking about the actual situation where Suge tried to get him to sign off.
He's telling us, but we don't know what it means.
Right, because this is a very sort of fuzzy story where everyone gives different versions of what happened. You know, like BG Knockout said that Easy showed up and dudes came out from under the bed with baseball bats, and then someone else said, oh no, that would never happen because Easy would have gotten those guys killed because all the Crips were behind him and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you see in the movie, he's getting beat up. But what actually happened based on what Easy told you?
Well, what's interesting is when I saw Straight Outta Compton, which I loved because it captured that feel.
Yeah.
And Easy, I knew exactly when me and my brother came in and exactly when we pulled out, right?
Mm.
Had Easy been beat up, we would have seen results of that. Easy wasn't a liar. We came into the circle shortly after that happened, right? Right before Boys in the Hood is going to be released with Ice Cube. And they're already beefing with Ice Cube. And I'll get to that part, right? And if I'm to tell you, I wasn't there, but we were around Easy. Like that, it was like we should have a movie called Our Summer with Eazy-E. Okay, that's how it was. I don't think he got beat up. And in Jerry Heller's book, which I'm sure you've read, I think that's a very accurate account because even though Jerry does fudge the truth, the thing about mentioning his mother and Jerry maybe in a van or something like that, that kind of rings more true than anything. Had he been beat up like that, yeah, I think it would have been a lot more tense. You got to remember, Dre was still doing press for the Niggas for Life album, right? So when we go to Ruthless Records, which was in Calabasas too, or Woodland Hills, I forgot which city, they would come, and this is the funniest thing ever. This is our intro to the business, really. It's like, so NWA show up, Dr. Dre, everybody, right? And nice Versace clothes. And they'd have their gangster clothes in plastic on hangers. They go change into the Dickies. They go change into the gangster stuff, sit down in front of the camera in the gangster gear, do their interview. Interview stops, go back into the Versace stuff and go home, right?
In character.
Yeah, they're in character. They're
Right.
crazy. So Dre was still doing the press for the album. So had Eazy-E been beat up in that studio that way, I don't know that Eazy would allow Dre to even be around. You know what I mean?
But there were guys with baseball bats, so it's not like everything was all nice between them at that point.
No, what I'm saying is, if he was threatened by Suge without the physical part, Easy, the businessman, is smart enough to know, let's get through this press tour. I don't feel that badly. I feel bad about this, but it's not to the point where people will beat me up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess he ended up signing the contract with his left hand and then said it was signed under duress. And then, Dre Day made Easy's payday. So he ended up getting a piece of the chronic.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else.
But Dre was there. When we back then, remember 976 commercials? They would go to the hotel, they'd have to do the NWA 976 commercials. They were all in the same hotel room doing the recordings, and they got along. It was strange because the Shook thing was going on, right? But the biggest memory from that time is he would pick us up in the 850. My brother was always in the front seat because he was more the extrovert. I was always in the seat behind Easy. And you have to remember, too, when we first met Easy, he's our hero from like 16, 17. His first album, his first EP, where he's talking about he was born in 73 and everybody thought he was 15, right?
Right.
And we noticed that there's a difference in his appearance. His skin is kind of ashy. He's not as bulky as he used to be. He's still bulky. But we noticed something's not right with him. So we're driving one day, and he would always have the shits when we knew him, or he would throw up a lot. So we're driving on the way to the office, and Easy's like, oh my God, I gotta go. If I get pulled over by the cops, I'm gonna shit my pants. And I remember distinctly my brother turns to him and goes, Easy, you ever think maybe you have AIDS?
Oh, you guys brought it up.
My brother was in the front seat. He goes, you ever think maybe you have AIDS?
Huh.
And Easy goes like this. He looks at him and goes, and keeps driving.
Wow.
Okay, a couple years later when he dies, all our friends call us.
Wow.
And remember that story. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, still telling it to this day, it makes me have goosebumps because that leads me to believe he knew a lot earlier, because no one just dies like that.
Yeah, AIDS, it takes a while to build up.
Yeah.
Yeah, even back then before the drugs and everything else like that. Yeah. That's why the conspiracy theories, they say that Suge injected him with something or blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I never believed that.
Yeah.
I never believed it. I thought that, listen, he was very promiscuous. He never used condoms. He had a ton of kids. More and more would pop up after he died.
He had sex tapes in the Norwalk house.
Yeah. I mean, DJ Yella had a whole porn company that he would kind of frolic, throughout. And listen, man, back then, if he was hitting everything raw, I mean, you saw
I didn't
what
know
happened.
when he was hitting raw because I wasn't in the room, but I believe
Well, but the number of kids he had, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in a Howard Stern interview, he said he never uses condoms.
He said that?
He said that in a Howard Stern interview. He said, I don't use condoms.
Well, there you go.
And, look what happened to Magic. I mean, right around that same time. It was just,
But Magic got the magic pill. Easy didn't.
Easy did not.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Eazy-E supposed to be in the Tupac video for If My Homies Call?
Tupac wanted him in Trapped.
Trapped.
Okay.
But
before then, I have to say the thing about Boys in the Hood is you have to remember they're still beefing with Ice Cube. And Ice Cube was kind of winning. Then 100 Miles of Running comes out, and everybody's like, yeah, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. And then Cube comes back with, you can yell all day, you still won't come close, right? Because Dr. Dre was hype on that. So the night Boys in the Hood came out, you have to remember a month before, the trailers, the TV, everybody's hype on Boys, right? Easy has the 850 BMW, who also has this big dually truck. He's like, hey, Ren, and they would call us the Twinkies because we were twins. Twinkies. Let's get a dually. Let's go up to Man Chinese Theater and let's see people's reaction to that movie. That's what Easy wanted to do, right? So we drive up to Hollywood Boulevard. He has no security. He never was a guy that had a bunch of security running.
Well, didn't he have the two Samoan dudes with him?
Yeah, those dudes were there. Those are the ones that actually named us Twinkies. Because one day we had to go down to Compton to check and see if his mother was safe because of the Suge threat, which now we know is a Suge threat. And we're in the dually in the back, me and my brother. The Samoans are in a different car. And while they're checking on his mother, we hear pop, 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 like somebody's firing off. And me and my brother drop down inside the dually. And they look back, you fucking Twinkies. And that's how we got our nickname, basically, right?
Was it actual gunshots, though?
Yeah, it was real gunshots. Of course I'm dropping.
Right. So, why wouldn't you drop?
I'm just staying up like this, right? So So we drive up that day or that night that Boys is released on the Friday, whatever, Wednesday back then for black movies. And it's letting out. The whole crowd's letting out. And the street's blocked off. And Easy goes right in the middle of the crowd. What y'all think? What y'all think? It's dope. You guys fucked up. It's dope as fuck.
You guys fucked up.
Cube is dope, blah, blah. And but that's what a man he was. He wanted to hear the reactions. He's walking through the fans. How was Cube? How was the movie? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool. Yeah. So it was Ren and it was just Ren and Easy. I don't think the Samoan guys were there that night, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at one point, well, I think they actually mentioned in the movie how Easy called it like a Tuesday after school special or something like that.
Yeah, because we adopted that when we had to start making Menace because we needed to separate ourselves from that. Yeah, he did. He literally did call it that. It was cool. It was cool. It was like an after school special. That's what he would say. Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, so you guys started doing Tupac's music videos. You guys did his first 3 videos.
Yeah, and the one you're talking about, Trapped, is the one that Tupac wanted Easy, and Tupac knew that Alan had the relationship with Easy. And he said, can you get him to come like do a cameo? And my brother was like, cool. My brother actually did work hard to get Easy there, but Easy was kind of, you know, he might be out with a girl. You never know. And also, I didn't know that they had been on a tour, Digital Underground, and they had met Tupac before, and Tupac knew Easy, but they weren't close. So he didn't show up. We were shooting up in, we were shooting down here in LA, but it was up at that prison off the side of the freeway they used for all the movies. And you could see on Tupac's face that he was hurt that because Easy was a hero of his too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do 3 of his music videos. You did Trapped was the first one?
The first one was Trapped, second one was Brenda's, and the third one was When My Homies Called, which Alan got accurate. Like we kind of backed away and let him take director's credit on that one.
Okay, and you talked about this one time where you were hanging out with Pac, and it was the first time you actually saw the rage and the anger. I guess he was messing with some celebrity female and found out that she was...
What'd you see? What'd you find? Read this.
I find stuff.
Oh, shit.
I find stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess he was... Can you say who it was?
I don't want to say who it was. I'll tell you off camera. But,
Okay.
But no, it was partly related to... You can do that thing with my brother's story, like when the night he shaved his head after the screening of Juice, right?
Yeah.
My recollections are slightly different. I thought we went to his room. Alan thinks the knock came at our door. But whatever the version is, me and my brother were together. And he comes in drunk, but happy drunk. And he had just shaved his head. And then we told him about this really famous R&B guy who was messing with a pretty famous fairly famous female rapper. And earlier that day, we told him not knowing that he had been with her. And he went into a pretty, it was a pretty, I would say almost jealous fueled rage about it. But he was drunk and whatever, you know. And he said some things that were like, I can't repeat because he was kind of disparaging her. And he's saying, you tell him I did that to her. And we're like, well, we don't know.
I'm not getting in the middle of this.
We don't even know this nigga. We're just doing our second or third music video, or whatever it was back then. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I guess you guys actually took Pac to see Juice for the first time at one of the studios, right?
Paramount.
At Paramount.
Yeah.
He never actually saw it himself, even though it was his own film.
Yeah.
And you guys actually got to sit with him as he watched himself on the big screen for the first time playing Bishop.
Yep.
How was his reaction as he was watching this?
I don't remember like in the moment. My brother tells that story much better about like, that's when Tupac realized he had the blueprint for what he needed to do.
I think what people get wrong about when they say Tupac changed, when he saw Juice, I think he saw the blueprint. And I think he saw this is how I'm going to get what I'm after. You know, people will listen to this. People will hear that. They'll hear Bishop.
Yeah.
They'll see Bishop. There's there's like marginalized artist over here, or
whether he was taking on a persona, which, you know, let's be honest, you know, a lot of, like I just told the NWA thing, you know, they just amplify a persona to sell the music, and it doesn't mean that it's a disingenuous. But if you look at When I Clown Around, When I Hang Around with the Underground, girls used to blast me.
Yeah, there's the African gear on,
And
the
then
African medallion.
And my brother was right. Tupac came out at the wrong time in a way. If he'd come out more during the Public Enemy heyday, that was a better fit for him.
Yeah.
But he was during the transition into gangster rap, basically, right? The head shaving event, I think, happened after the screening. It was maybe the same night or the night following that. And then we started to see some early changes. Alan hit all that story. There is one thing that I want to hit eventually, and it's the so-called running event that we'll get to when you're ready.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys had the script for Menace to Society, but then you went to go see my favorite hood film of all time, American Me. And you said, oh, we gotta fix this. And I mean, I'm glad your brother said this because I've been saying this for years. American Me, I think, was the most impactful hood film ever.
Just give Edward James Olmos his props, his flowers right now.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the greatest gangster films of all time.
100%.
I think way better than Menace, way better than Boys in the Hood. And I'll keep going. People will insult me. I don't give a fuck. I think American Me is over all those hood films in the 90s.
Incredible. Incredible.
And incredibly real.
Because it was based on a very true story, but they ended up changing some of the details on it to the point where 10 people end up getting killed over this film. Like Danny Trejo came in and talked about this whole situation. You know what I'm saying?
I saw that interview.
Yeah, there was a hit on Edward James
Edward James Olmos'
head. Yeah, like he had to carry a gun. Like the Mexican mafia really wanted to kill him because they showed the leader getting raped in juvie, which was not true from what I understand. But they decided to take that poetic license and.
And from what I understand, some of the people featured in that movie, like I think, like got killed because of them being in that movie.
4 out here and about, I think 6 in prison.
6 people got killed over American Me.
Yeah, probably about
just being
8.
part of it.
Yeah, but it was funny because I remember Donald Garcia, another Mexican mafia that got out and turned Christian, just straight out said, you know, they were talking about no, and he go, yeah, that falls on you, Eddie. You know, so
okay.
So you've got to be the power of cinema. You got to be really careful.
Yeah.
You know, wait a minute, and I don't mean am I offending somebody? No, you just got to be real careful about telling the truth. Okay, the leader of the Mexican mafia was never raped.
Yeah. And I've always said this in my interviews, watching those rape scenes in prison made me say, as a kid, I'm never going to prison. And I've never been to prison.
Yeah, outside
because of that film.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't really have family that were in and out of jail.
Well, when you saw that knife with those
when I saw that,
yeah.
I said, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But when you saw American Me as a filmmaker, what'd you think?
It was incredible. And what had happened was when we were shopping Menace, it got picked up by New Line. It was all overnight craziness, how that movie happened, right? Then the 2 producers of New Jack City, Doug McHenry and George Jackson, I forgot their names. They had just done New Jack City a year or 2 before, right? Boys in the Hood had already come out. Juice had already come out, right? They decide, these 2 black producers who we thought would be kind of like, not mentors of ours, but, you know, good with us. They call up the head of New Line and say, you can't make that movie. That's a bad movie. It's a bad reflection of black people, blah, 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 blah. So Bob Shea decides to put the movie on hold while we're in prep. And this is when we see American Me, right? So while we're down for a couple weeks, he has 2 notes for us. Make it more emotional. And that scene where he's making crack, can you make it less how to make crack? Because it was step by step how to make crack. Like literally, you can learn how to make crack. Well, like, okay, fair enough, right? Then we go meet those 2 producers and go at them at the Warner Brothers commissary. Like we have a sit down with them and we say, the fuck you guys doing? We're trying to make a movie here. We're trying to make a career. They're like, well, if you guys want to do reality, you should make fucking documentaries. And we're like, well, fuck you guys. And we just got out of there, right? Cut to, we now got our Swamp Meat Menace hats, right? We go see American Me. And we were like, what is this? The credits roll. It was my brother, Tiger Williams, the writer, and me, we stand, we take our hats off and like respect. Then we go rewrite Menace to make it more hard. Because the headline at the time when we were doing, before we even made the movie, this is how crazy we were. There was Hollywood Reporter and Variety saying, we're going to make Boys in the Hood look like Mary Poppins. Okay. Because we had big mouths back then. We're coming out of hip hop culture and we didn't want to be compared to John. We didn't want to be compared to Spike. So we were just popping off, right? Then you got Eazy-E in our ear, you know. So we see American Me and we're like, wow, this is making everybody look like Mary Poppins. And to this day, it's making Menace look like a Mary Poppins. It's making, you name it, New Jack, Juice, Boys in the Hood. It's a better, more real film than all those films.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, and we talked about this with your brother. Eazy-E, was he really supposed to be O-Dog?
Yes.
Was that really like really cast and going forward? And
No, not at that point. It was like, I remember distinctly that, of course, everybody knows we modeled a lot of that stuff off of Goodfellas. The narration, O-Dog is like Joe Pesci. Scorsese was our hero. We were developing the script while we were hanging out our summer with Eazy-E. So while O-Dog is being written, we're telling Eazy, we want you to be this character. We give him the script at the Norwalk house. He sits in it for a few days. We go back to the Norwalk house. He grabs the script. He throws it over on the side and goes, nah, I'm good. I'm doing my own thing. He was developing a script called Backstabbers with this other guy, Whitmore, I forget his name, writer-director guy. And also my brother was correct about Jerry and Eazy were trying to keep us in their stable. And my brother and I were so ambitious. That's the other story I gotta get to. It's like that compound up in Calabasas where Eazy lives here, Jerry lives here, and Dre lives over here. At that point, we'd been spending most of the summer with Eazy, and I'm like, Alan, we're in this game to direct. We can't be hanging out with Eazy all day. He's like, you're right. Let's go up to Eazy's house. So we go up to his house and tell Eazy that. My brother tells him straight up. Eazy said, get in the car. We get in the car. He drives around the front of Dre's house, stops to 850 there, jumps out, goes in Dre's house, comes out, counts out $1,000 to both of us and goes, will that hold you over for a while? And my brother's like, yeah, okay. But also I remember we were at Jerry's backyard one day and he was in his sweats. And because we had big mouths and we would say what was on our mind, we said something to Jerry, but it was all in jest. And he literally pulls out a 25 and points it at my brother.
A gun?
Like, yeah, like,
really?
What the fuck you say? What'd you say?
Really?
What'd you say? And now in hindsight, you know what they were dealing with, the sugar of it all. And even though Dre's still around the corner and even though Eazy's driving over there to get money, it's weird to look back on now because they didn't really have the clean break that everybody thinks they had. It wasn't like that, no. Okay. But yes, the answer to your question, I wouldn't have meandered.
Yeah, it's all good.
It was kind of written with him in mind. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him working. I mean, obviously, Lorenz Tate killed it.
Yeah,
but
it would have been a different character.
It would have been a different character.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question because I actually thought about this after doing the interview with Alan. The opening scene where O-Dog kills the Korean, the female Korean shop owner, and then kills her husband. Was that somewhat of a response to what happened to Latasha Harlan getting killed by the Korean female shop owner, which was kind of a precedent, to what happened to Rodney King and then ultimately, the LA riots?
I mean, that's a good question. Because I've thought about it because I saw some write-up recently because it was the movie was re-released on Criterion, right? Mm-hmm. And my answer would be that it was a very subconscious reaction because back then, when you'd go into those grocery stores, they would follow you around. Mm-hmm. And then you had the Latasha Harlan's thing, and then you had several other incidents. Then you had the riots with the Koreans had to protect their stores, and they're actually out there shooting. They're on rooftops, Yeah. So it was in the air, I don't think it was purposely done. The opening scene came about for one reason. The script was done. My brother was the one who took the lead. We had the idea at 15. He took the lead with Tiger Williams and developing the script because I was kind of like, yeah, right, we're going to make a movie about something we thought about when we were 15 years old, right? And at that time, we were 18 and we were starting to experiment with marijuana. We were late to marijuana, right? And I was in my room, and I'm like, man, we need a scene. We need a scene that just knocks. I'm thinking to myself, we need a scene that knocks people's socks off, and they need to know what they're in for. So I come up with this in my head, like I know the beats of this scene. It's not fully developed. So I run into the den where my brother and Tiger Williams are. And I say, hey, we got to have this liquor store scene. They get shot, blah, blah, blah. The tape. There was no tape throughout the movie. The script was done without the tape element, right? Then we went about researching it because we had our like tech advisors that were gangsters in the South Central Watts, Compton. And one of them told us that they keep the money in their socks. So we grabbed that detail, then we grabbed another detail, and then we start developing this. And the scene did what we wanted it to do, was to shock and to let people know, like, if you're not down, if you can't watch this, get out of the theater. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would have been the same movie without that opening scene, because once you're like, 10 minutes into the film, you're like, God damn, this is not a typical movie here.
And it's also a response to the boys thing again. And it's a response to New Jack City, and it's a response to Juice. It was like a lot of it was external, kind of, we're going to separate ourselves from that path. And our good guy, our supposed good guy in Boys in the Hood would be a bad guy, right? That's how raw dog these guys are in Menace. It's like Kane would actually be a bad guy in any other movie, but he's our protagonist. Yeah. And then you have O-Dog, yeah.
Okay. And how serious was MC Ren being cast as AWACS? Was that like a real thing?
Yeah, my brother got that right in his interview. Like,
MC Ren was supposed to play AWACS?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of people
I
didn't know
was
that.
brokenhearted when we didn't get him. Except for when 8 showed up, I was like, oh, this is MC8 turned that out. We actually went out, I think he was living in Corona or one of those cities way out there. We were actually at his house trying to beg him to do it. And it was beyond, I think my brother mentioned something about religious stuff, or, he was starting to convert then. I don't remember that part. I remember he was drinking when the last time we saw him at his house, and he was going through some baby mama drama. And he was even throwing a phone in the house. I mean, it was crazy, right? and we were like, you got to do this. But it was more an ego, kind of an ego thing. I think he felt like he should get a bigger role. Which, going back even to the Tupac thing, I think the bottom line in a Tupac and Menace is he was too big for that movie at that time. There's no way that role would have worked for him.
Well, right, because he essentially starred in Juice.
And then you get Janet Jackson.
Yeah, Poetic Justice.
Poetic Justice, yeah.
Okay. And, and I talked about this with your brother, and I interviewed Bill Duke about this whole situation. He stole that movie, man.
Oh, yeah.
And, and it wasn't until I did the interview with him
that you realized there was only one scene?
There was only one scene.
Yeah.
Menace to Society.
Yes. I only have one scene. One scene.
One scene. You were not a recurring character.
No.
You were not on the poster.
No.
Your whole part was, I think, maybe 5 minutes long at the most.
That's right.
So what led into you actually doing that role?
I love the Hughes brothers. I think they're brilliant writers and also directors, the collaboration. I like the story too because it was a street story, but it humanitized the kids. It wasn't just like these are these bad little gang members, but it showed their humanity also. And that one scene, it's amazing. I did a film recently called Mandy with Nicolas Cage, and we're in Brussels, Belgium. I'm in Brussels, Belgium, and kids come up to me and say that line.
Like, there was not a buildup. It wasn't like, okay, here's this detective who's sort of in the midst, like, trying to figure out, these crimes. It's like, boom, detective, 5 minutes, crazy kind of like spin around shot where you see these people kind of in the background, but they're shadowy figures, and you don't fucked up right. I think that's the most iconic line from the movie. You don't fucked up now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like what's lived on in memes.
You're looking at it
and
from the
stuff
outside.
like that.
I'm in the inside, so I wouldn't know.
No, but in terms of like when you see memes and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
In
Oh, yeah, I've seen those,
2023,
yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
that part. Like you don't fucked up now, right?
Yeah. Well, it's Bill Duke. He was in Car Wash. Come on, man.
I know, man.
But he also did Deep Cover the year before, I think.
Yeah, he directed it, I think.
Yeah, he directed that. There's even a shot or two in Menace that are like B-roll from Deep Cover of the Los Angeles City, you know? Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's New Line, it's the same company.
Oh,
basically,
okay.
Right? And that day, it's like you'll notice this in all of our films. Like you're talking about the circle dolly thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're at a loss, like how the fuck do we cover this? Like put that circle up, because we learned
that
that in
circle
the music video days. Put that circle dolly out there. We'll just do it. We'll do one version this way. We'll do one version this way, and you'll start clipping actors and catching things. But Bill made that scene.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tyrone was great, but Tyrone was like young, like the rest of us, you know, and Bill was the most seasoned. And then you have Sam Jackson, and you have Charles Dutton. Those guys were kind of like pros. You know?
How did you cast Jada Pinkett?
See, I'm a little fuzzy on that. I've heard stories about like she didn't want to do it, and that she was talking to meeting us. I heard some versions from my brother. I heard some versions from Tyrone. I just remember her coming in and reading. And I remember that she wasn't a typical, what you would consider like a hood mother, but she didn't have that look that we were going after for O-Dog. We were looking for like that Jerry Curl drip, dark skin, kind of Gorillas in the Mist kind of look, right? And then here comes Tyrant. So she was kind of the same way. She was fresh. She also had just been on that A Different World.
Right.
And so she knew her stuff because she's doing a TV show. And I think she just wanted on what she did in the room. But I don't know about the other stories. Like there's that story my brother also talked about, like Ice Cube saying that we wanted him for
Yeah,
O-Dog.
there was a rumor that he was
that-
supposed to be
that-
on there, yeah.
You know, all due respect to Cube, because he's the man and he co-wrote that movie as far as I'm concerned, right? He may have gotten that from a casting director. But we knew not to take Cube because of Doughboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, before you guys actually got the deal for Menace II Society, Tupac agreed to attach himself to the film. And I guess like the studio wanted a platinum artist, and even though Pac wasn't even platinum,
Yeah,
because the first album,
you were correct about that.
you're right. The album didn't really do much. The first album didn't really do much.
Yeah.
But he attached himself to that, and he was becoming a movie star already because of Juice, and that helped you guys get the deal.
Yeah, I don't know how strongly it helped us, because at the time we started casting, you even had DJ Pooh, or whatever, it's not DJ Pooh, Pooh Man. Who was his name? Up from your part of the world,
Pooh Man
right?
from the Bay. Rapper.
Yeah. Then you had Too Short.
MC Pooh.
MC Pooh,
was
there
his
you
original
go.
name, yeah.
And then there was MC8, who, he was gold, I think a gold artist at the time. It was more that Tupac had the heat, I think, coming off of Juice and Poetic Justice. So that kind of meant more than being a platinum artist, because he beginning to start making rumbles in the movie game, basically.
Right. And he was set to play Sharif,
Yeah.
the Muslim character. Now, when did the problems with Pac having a problem with the script actually start?
As my brother described when you interviewed him, it started in rehearsals, right?
He started having a problem. He didn't initially have a problem, but then it became, hey, if I'm going to play this nonviolent character, you guys have to show how I got there. Yeah.
I mean, was the original script a little bit more heavy with this character? Because ultimately in the movie, it was a very slight character compared to the others.
No.
Okay, so it was a very slight character.
He did not want that. He wanted to play a supporting role.
Yeah.
He had, as they schedule it out and they call it the board, they board it out. It was 3 weeks worth of work. And at the time, you have to keep in mind, the deal was $100,000 a week for him. Yeah. So that was like an incredible figure for that.
$300,000.
Yeah, $300,000 for 3 weeks. 3 weeks worth of work was at the time over his quote.
Nice.
But now reflecting back, and he did a lot of reflecting in your interview and several others, because I had to watch it to prepare for this. He's right about one thing. Is like we were all 20, 21 years old. We all came out of hip hop culture, right? We all were running into new money, new fame, right? I don't think it had anything to do with the script. My opinion. My opinion. My opinion is I think that his soul knew he was too big for that role. He maybe couldn't express it correctly. Like we all couldn't express ourselves correctly back then. You start acting out and doing stuff like this. And also Tupac was a performer. So when Alan was describing some of the early stuff, we started signs where we were starting to break. I saw it on the first music video. It wasn't the third music video where we started seeing the break. I started seeing that if there was a lot of women around and a couple guys, he'd start getting a little, he'd start chirping, right? And I had to calm him down one day in the music video set because he had a brand new Carl Kanai suit. Not suit, but like, whatever. And it was a scene where police were supposed to jack him against the wall. And one of them was, we always use DJ Hughes as a cop in all the videos.
Right.
We love doing that.
There
was an Easter egg. We'd always Easter egg him. And he started popping off about, my clothes are getting dirty. My clothes are getting dirty. And he was going off. That was the first time I saw the anger. And so how I calmed him down is the same thing I do nowadays with actors or anybody in my crew. I go, because I had this recently a problem with my armorer talking about one of the guns was dropping too much. I said, I'll buy the gun. So I said, Tupac, I'll buy you a new outfit. And then he calmed down, right? So when it got to the rehearsals now in hindsight, I don't think it had anything to do with what anybody was talking about. It just, he was too big for that movie.
Right. So, I mean, the way Mo Preem described it was they went down there, they were a little bit late, and then your brother was giving him a hard time over being late, an argument ensued, and Pac basically went out to the car and said, fuck this movie.
No, that's not, I don't know.
You weren't there. When
I was prepping in the next room.
Okay.
Like I'm doing the shot list, dealing with production designers, cinematographers, all that bullshit, right? What I do know happened is, as Alan accurately described it, was Tupac's a big personality and he likes to entertain. He's an entertainer. He's a performer, right? You get any of those guys in a room full of people, they want to perform. Alan's trying to get through a rehearsal. Tupac is performing. Okay. And everybody's laughing. And as Alan described to you, the next day he told them not to laugh. Tupac smelled something was off, and then it escalated. The part that Alan didn't tell was, and by the way, we have to be fair to both Tupac and my brother here, okay? One is gone and is a legend, okay? And you have to be very careful talking because there's 3 types of Tupac fans.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. And look at the comment section right below here, okay? There's the casual hip-hop fan that loves his music. There's the hardcore Tupac fan. And there's the stans who have nothing better to do than to be typing right below me right now some crazy shit that they don't know anything about, right?
Well, no, people have actually said in emails and DMs that they look at Pac as a religious figure, almost like a Jesus Christ in a way. Yeah. And if you look at his impact on the murals around the world, you will be hard-pressed to find any rapper who has as many murals in his worship to the extent of a Tupac.
Who else? Like Nipsey's getting close in L.A.
In L.A.
Yeah, in L.A.
But not worldwide like this.
No.
It just is what it is.
Well, because he's the James Dean of rap. He went too early. He was iconic.
Yes.
He had all those attributes that everybody thinks, and it's true, that were great.
Right. And he had the social justice aspect of his music, and like a Bob Marley.
But he was human.
Yes.
But he was human. And I'm talking to those stands right now. Okay. He was human.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, there's a very famous quote. I don't know where it came from. It's like, at what point is it a bad person doing a good thing or a good person doing a bad thing? Okay. I think he was a good person who did a few bad things. He's human. Get over it, stands. Okay. And there's people who were there that saw the story firsthand. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's version of the story, but you know how it goes. There's just different perspectives. What I do remember and why Alan was being very respectful is because he did Dear Mama, and which is a love letter to a friend, because we had all squashed it. We're fine, It's these people down here. As the one story he didn't tell is they went to the next room. They got into it verbally, right? And Tupac was kind of approaching the desk, but that's normal. He just being loud. And so my brother stood up, right? And when my brother stood up, Tupac was like, call my fucking manager, and left the room, right? Now you have to understand the history of my brother too. My brother was always the guy when we were kids that would finally stand up to the bully, okay? Not that Tupac was bullying him that day. He wasn't, okay? But when push comes to shove, my brother will get up. It doesn't mean that he has hands. It doesn't mean he's a boxer. It doesn't mean anything, but he's willing to fight. Now, when we were kids, I got punked once. And he went back and took care of that bully, right? He took care of the bully in middle school. He took care of the bully in high school. He took care of the bully in grade school. That was my brother. He was a man about it, So when he says, call my manager, that night was the Glenn Ross premiere. You remember that movie?
Yeah, I saw the play.
That was a New Line movie, right? Bob Shaye's the head of New Line. My brother wanted it to work out. So he goes up to Bob Shaye at the premiere and says, hey, we got a problem. He runs out X, Y, and Z. Bob Shaye's the one that goes, fire him. There's no discussion.
Wow.
He doesn't say, well, let's talk. He just looks at everyone and says, fire him. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, fire him. So my brother has to call Atron because Tupac won't take my brother's calls. And the whole thing, now in hindsight, you look at everything, it broke on MTV News. And as a young man in Tupac's position, of course, that's a fucked up way. He knew before it broke on MTV, but that's no way we're not men yet. And now you can understand how he feels. But the truth is about the careers, I'm talking about the career path of Tupac and the career path of us, is like, it was meant to be, the movie was meant to be the way it was. His albums were meant to be the way they were. We didn't get in the way of each other.
Yeah, and to be fair, the Sharif character was a very minor character.
He was too
in
big
Menace
for it.
to
He was too
Society.
big for it.
The way
It would have been
described
weird.
He was too big. You're right, because it's like, I mean, no offense to the actor who played Sharif. You know, I'm saying,
Vontae Sweet, who was great. Yeah.
You know, no offense to him, but when you look at that film, when you look at the memorable roles, the memorable scenes, no one really talks about the Sharif scene of him, you know, with the dying body.
You're not getting
like,
me on camera.
you know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. It just is what it is. And you're right. It just wasn't a very big role. There was no backstory to it. And Pac being in that role would have been a little weird considering the stature of Pac.
I think it would have stood out. Like everybody, like, what is he doing? Why is he in there?
Yeah.
You know. But we had a goal, and nobody was hanging in the way of us achieving that movie. Like, we were hard-headed, we were stubborn. He was hard-headed, he was stubborn, and it wasn't in the cards. You know, it's like it worked itself out in a way. You know, like I said, we all thought whatever the motivations were back then. I don't believe that. I believe that it was the film gods and the music gods going, no, this is not good.
Did the movie come out before the Triggers Got No Heart music video filming?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I don't know exactly. Maybe. Because I actually, after that incident, did Straight Up Menace. I directed Straight Up Menace, the MC8 music video. And that was after the incident.
Okay. Well, regardless of the timing, 6 months later, you guys are filming the music video for Triggers Got No Heart with Spice One.
We're not filming it.
You guys were the directors of that?
No, I'll tell you, because this is my last Tupac thing. Here it goes, because this is what I came to. No, it was Mark Gerard, I think, is the music video. I think he was the music video director. What year did you come to L.A.?
To L.A., 2013.
That's the first time you came to L.A.?
Well, not the first time I came to L.A. I was coming to L.A. since I was a kid, but when I moved to L.A.
So, and I'll tell you the situation, and then I'm done with it.
Okay.
So on the 110 freeway near downtown LA, there used to be this thing that it was these hills that were vacant. They're going to build a Belmont Learning Center. Now there's a kind of some school there, right? But it was all these hood films would shoot there. Great view to LA, but it's on the other side of the 110 freeway. The day this happens, and this is the detail that is crazy to me. I told you earlier that we were starting to experiment with marijuana, right? I'm 18, 19, now we're 20. And I always made a point of never going outside because I was too paranoid. Don't go outside. Don't deal with people when you're smoking weed. This is the first day I went outside.
All hell breaks loose.
This is the first day. And what I feared the most would happen, happened, as you're high on some good chronic, because we had some good chronic back in the 90s, right? Before that, there was dispensaries. So this tells you how high we were, okay? My brother's driving the Jeep. He's in the front seat. My friend Ryan Williams is in the right passenger seat, who plays Stacy, the guy in Menace, right? I'm in the back. As we're driving up to the set's up the hill over here. I see the 15 Crips drinking and smoking. I see Tupac. Why do we even pull over? Why are we pulling over? So I'm like, okay, I already know I can feel it. I'm already high and paranoid. I'm like, fuck. Car pulls up. And I remember verbatim what happened. Tupac walks up to the passenger side window. My brother rolls down the window. Tupac says, Both of y'all get out. I'm going to beat both y'all asses. Exactly like that, right? And I'm no mathematician, but that shit didn't add up. I'm like, wait a second. He's 150 pounds. We're both over 200 at the time. There's no way. These niggas are going to kick our ass. Like, I know this is happening, right? This is crazy. And now the weed's kicking in. I'm like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, right? So my brother gets out. They start talking. Tupac brings up some stuff. My brother shoots it down with logic. Ryan gets out, goes over to the front of the car. I get out. And up the hill, they're shooting a Trigger's Not Got No Heart. They may even be playback going at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, there's always a security or a set cop. They're always at like off duty on motorcycles. I go, let me get to that set cop to break up what I think is about to happen here, which is not a fight one-on-one. So I start moseying up the hill. I wasn't even running. I was moseying. I turn around the first time. I see Tupac at a smoking pipe. He puts it in his hand as my brother goes, I don't have any time for this. My brother walks away and Tupac hits him in the back of the head. That's my first glance. I keep moseying up the hill like I'm sneaking like it's Scooby-Doo, like this, right? I look back again and it's a commotion. I don't know. It's like a dust pile. Mm-hmm. I'm like, fuck. I keep moseying up the hill and I think I may have even walked through a take. I was so high. Okay. And then I say to someone in the set, where is the set security or set cop? And it was like slow motion. They go, that way. And it was right over my shoulder. I look back like that. And I'm like, and I see 15 niggas looking at me. And I'm like, yeah, putting on my running shoes. I'm like, it was like, I read some of these comments. I don't do it in general, but when it comes to this story and what my brother had to suppress, and I go to myself like, what would you do if you were me against all odds? Up in the studio getting blow. This be the realest shit I ever spoke. Okay. Tupac ran up at the Marin Festival. Ice Cube ran. When you're faced with numbers like that, and it was all eyes on me. Mm-hmm. I didn't even see my brother. I saw all eyes on me, and I'm up the hill now. And they said that way, and I'm like, I go down this hill, go under the underpass. The first thing I do is make a call to try to see who I can call. I'm like out in the open. Next thing I know, there's 3 car full of guys racing down the street towards me, driving up on the sidewalk.
Wow.
Literally driving up on the sidewalk. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm high now. I'm like, no way. What the fuck is this? So then I go into, of all places, a Korean liquor store. I must have sounded like a madman. This guy driving on the sidewalk. That way. Go to the exit. So I go to the exit, go, and it's like a parking structure. I end up on the top of the parking structure. I look across this, to the other end of the freeway where the music video is being shot. It's dead silent. There's nothing going on. Those guys, it was actually like a blessing, is that I left to draw them towards me. I didn't do that on purpose, right? So I'm like, okay, it's all quiet on the western front over there. Find this doorway. I see this doorway, and across the street is a fire department. But this doorway, if I make a run for it, will lock back on me. I won't be able to go back in. And as I'm about to run for it, the 3 cars go right by. I'm like, oh my fucking God. This high day of mine can't get any worse. Like, this is a movie. And I'm like, fuck. So they drive by, and I'm like, fuck, and I'm going straight to the fire department. Go straight to the fire department, and some redneck shit happening there. Like, I'm like, and then my brother, and there's a fight. And then, wait just 1 minute, boy. Now you wait just one goddamn cock-picking minute and slow down and explain exactly what's going on. And I'm like, oh my God, right? Next thing I know, the police show up, draw guns on me.
On you?
On me.
Okay.
Come out, get on the ground, cuff me up. I have to try to explain it again. Then the line producer shows up. Here's the best part of the story. To me, that's all crazy and fucked up. That my brother never got to. I get back up there. He's standing with Ryan. He has a little cut in his nose, and he's worried sick about me. He's just worried what happened to me, right? And then he turns to me and goes, hey, Albert, I want you to know one thing. I never went down. I never went down. I felt bad about it, but I don't think it's what people make it out to be. It's like, if I wanted to run, I would have ran right away. I was actually going up the hill, like trying to do a sneak move. Like, because there was always that guy in the motorcycle. I was trying to do a sneak move as that was going down. Because it started out as a somewhat of a one-on-one, but a sucker punch one-on-one, right? Mm-hmm. And the part of the story that really puzzles me is about these people commenting below that some of them say is, you weren't there. You didn't see what was said, what happened. That was a setup. Okay? That was a setup.
Right. So just to kind of fill in the blanks here, your brother ends up pressing charges, assault charges against Tupac. And then Mo Preem talked about this story, how you guys showed up to court at the same time and Tupac had Johnny Cochran as his lawyer.
That part was news to me. I didn't know that.
Just picture this. We at downtown LA at the courthouse. I forgot what happened in court, but all of us were in court. We got Pac had Johnny Cochran representing him.
So he actually had Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran. And then the fucking Hughes brothers come out, and we all at the elevator. We all at the elevator. And Pac started let him have it. You bitch ass motherfuckers. And Johnny's losing and like, Pac, you gotta calm down, man. You gotta calm down, man. You gotta calm down, man. Man, fuck these bitch ass motherfuckers. Nigga, it's thug life. You gonna whip your ass again right here, right now. Oh man. It's yeah.
Right. But this was before OJ Johnny Cochran, so no one knew who Johnny Cochran. Your brother was just like, this is just a black guy with an afro, like a middle-aged black guy with an afro. So I don't know who the hell he was. And you guys got into an argument. Your brother claimed that you and him called Tupac a bitch.
Me and my brother were walking out, and Tupac has said this. He said this, but he placed it in another timeline. And this is some funny twin shit. You want to talk about some twin shit? We're coming out of the court room. And Tupac is sat in the hall right there. And Albert and I walk by him. And you can imagine we're so angry. It's just like, this is before Tupac acknowledged that it was wrong. And in unison, Albert and I go, you're a bitch. And to see Tupac, he was shook for a second. I'd never seen him shook like that. He was sitting down, he was shook. And then the funny thing was, him and Albert got up and started doing that thing that guys do in the neighborhood. You go, you hit for, you hit for,
do something.
That part, when Alan told you that part of the story, I go, oh my God, I forgot that. Because when he described Tupac being momentarily shook, I was like, oh my God, I remember that, right? The second part, I don't remember that part where he's like, me and Tupac are going at it. And he was like laughing at us, basically, right? I don't remember that. What I do remember, again, my brother was a man about the situation the whole time, right? I do remember my brother saying to him, let's go now. You got nobody with you. Let's go now. And we had Nation of Islam security. And my brother fudged this too a little bit. Like, it's not fudged it. I think he just, it's a fuzzy memory in what because he said Tupac had the same security. Tupac didn't have, he had Stretch or somebody was there that day, right? When my brother said, let's go now, Tupac started making a scene to get the sheriffs to come over and break it up, right? Because we were at the elevators now. And then he started talking, and I won't repeat what he said to the Nation of Islam, but once he started talking, like popping off to them, I'm like, oh, this is dangerous, right? Where my brother blurs up the security is, once he took the bullets in New York at Quad Studio and had to show up in the wheelchair.
He had NOI security.
He had the exact guys he was talking bad about.
Oh, really?
The exact ones. So that was what happened. I don't remember. I remember we were tripping on him, but I don't remember being me and Tupac on blah, 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 blah. I don't remember. Alan could be right about it. I don't remember. I just remember the most impressive thing to me that day was Alan saying, let's go now. Me and you, right? And the other crazy part of that little saga was he had a reporter who was, what do you call it, embedded with him. It's a female reporter. I won't mention her name because...
Tabitha Sword?
No, it was a black female reporter who was writing for Vibe or what was the other hip Source, right?
Okay.
I won't mention her name because she still works in some capacity, right? So we go in the courtroom and every day we come in, he comes on that side, we're on this side, we would stare him down. We just stare at him, right? So she's with him that day. 2 months later, the article comes out and she describes the Hughes brothers hugging each other and cowering in tears. I'm like, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? What the fuck is she talking about?
Okay, so Menace comes out. It makes $30 million from the jump. Has it continued? You know, because like some movies are like evergreen. Did it continue to keep making money decade after decade and so forth, or was
the man wouldn't let us know that if it did? Because the studio accountant.
Yeah, the studio
It's like record company. It's like record company accountant. You want to know the truth? Here's the crazy thing. It's like someone called the stupid favored nations deal. You know what favored nations is? Your audience may not know. That means everybody gets paid the same.
Yeah.
So the two guys that created the idea and who directs the movie, and then you have the writer, and then you have the producer. $100,000 between the two Hughes brothers, right? After taxes, agents, we probably made less than $24,000 for not a dime more.
You never saw royalty.
Oh yeah, enough to pay a lighting bill, maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. Sometimes you get a check that says 5 cents. Like, this ain't even worth the labor.
I was on the Boondocks. I get my $1.50 check every so often.
Yeah, this
oh,
ain't
Hulu
even
picked
worth
it up.
leaving the house.
$1.50.
Like,
Yeah.
just like whatever. No.
Wow. Oh, and by the way, whoever watches Menace II Society with the subtitles, you guys got to work on that.
They got to work on a lot of things. I watch subtitles a lot nowadays.
Yeah, because there's N-words with a hard R, and it was kind of jarring to watch now in 2023.
Dude, watch Menace on Apple iTunes, right? Or whatever that's called.
Yeah, Apple TV.
Apple TV. I got and you know the intro with the New Line logo going, and O-Dog and Kane are talking on the way in. There's a homeless guy that goes, "Hey, yo, can you give me some change, man?" He goes, "Get the fuck out of my face, man!" Blah blah blah. That's what O-Dog says, right? The wino who's begging for change is actually my brother, right? In the Apple TV version, they mute that. You hear O-Dog going off on somebody that never even talks. Like, so there's whatever. Yeah.
Okay. And there was the rumor that Master P was doing Menace II Society 2, the sequel. The whole thing is false? Is there any truth to this story at all?
Not that I know.
Because Master P is not known to be a liar. Like, you know what I'm saying? But
no, and I don't know. They would have to get it from New Line. Who's now owned by Warner Brothers. I do know that at the 20th anniversary or the 10th anniversary, we actually humored the idea of getting with Tiger and getting with Lorenz. And we knew the first beats. He's getting out of prison. He's going to go take care of those that did that thing. And he was going to try to reform. And then it was going to be a story about, like, basically you can't reform a guy who learned how to be a better criminal.
Okay, so there was talk of a sequel, but never really got to any sort of real... Has there been talk about reboot or anything of that sort?
No.
Yeah,
so like what do you call it? Like it was a time that can't be recaptured.
Fair enough.
A bunch of young people making a movie, and now some 51-year-old nigga's gonna make that. No, it's not gonna work out. Although I do like what Scorsese did with Casino. Like, I love Goodfellas more, but there's a lot of crazy good stuff in Casino.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the second film, Dead Presidents. You said this is not your finest moment when it comes to that film. Now, Disney was originally financing this film?
Yeah, they financed it. Yeah.
Okay. So
Hollywood
you got
Pictures.
this violent post-Vietnam bank robbery, beating people up in pool halls with, pool sticks and the whole nine with Disney behind it. Did that just cause a friction the whole time?
No, not at all.
Really?
The problem with that was the Menace was such a hot movie that they let us do whatever we wanted, and we were insecure, so we started putting the cut off dicks in mouths and disemboweling. We were like, we showed up to the premiere with Mickey Mouse shirts on. Okay. Like, we were 21 when we made it. It came out when we were 22, right? What had happened was, remember that music video we made for Hollywood Records that we had the argument that started our career, Raw Fusion?
Yeah. And Hollywood Records was owned by Disney.
Yep. Just like Hollywood Pictures, which funded Dead Presidents, right?
Right.
So Michael Eisner was the head honcho of Disney at the time, right? He sees the Raw Fusion video. He tells Jeffrey Katzenberg, get these guys into a movie deal right away. Jeffrey Katzenberg calls up the guy at Hollywood Pictures and says, get these guys into a movie deal. Brings us in, says, we want to give you guys $30,000 a year to write whatever you want. And we're like, we're not really writers, we're filmmakers. Like, what are you guys going to do? You're going to turn down $30,000? You're like, yep. Walk out of the office, right? Cut 2 minutes, comes out. It's a sensation. This is getting to how dead presidents happen, right? It's a sensation. The story is, Michael Eisner walks in with a Time magazine article about me and my brother, slams it down on the table at the board meeting in the morning, looks at Jeffrey Katzenberg and says, I thought I told you to sign these guys to a deal a year and a half ago when we saw their first music video. You get them at all cost. Okay, so Katzenberg calls up our agent, says, I need to meet the guys to put them in a deal at Disney. We say no. Katzenberg calls him back and says, I need to meet your guys. We say no again. I found out years later he finally threatened them. And our agent begged us to meet with him at the St. James Club or the Argyle, remember that hotel? And we said, okay, we'll meet with him. Can you tell us what time he goes to sleep? And the callback said, he goes to sleep at 9:30. But tell him we'll meet him there at 11. So we get there and there's Jeffrey Katzenberg with 2 other guys. It's like, we know you guys are concerned about Disney and what you can do and what you can't do. They have their own company under our umbrella called Caravan Pictures. You can do your rated R film. We'll give you an advance. You're totally protected. It was Joe Roth and Roger Birnbaum, okay, who are big producers, one of them now still. And looking at them like, okay, and this is how you know when Hollywood really wants you. Shit gets done in a week, okay? It don't take months for your contract. So it was like, okay, you cut us $1 million advance. That was like a Monday. On Thursday, a check showed up, $1 million with Mickey Mouse on the fucking check.
You guys got $1 million check.
$1 million check with Mickey Mouse on the check. And I remember putting it on my mother's counter in her kitchen because she always said to us when we were growing up, don't always put all your eggs in one basket. And I was like, my brother was the same way. Like, oh, well, it's either filmmaking or I'm homeless. I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. So put that Disney check right in front of her. I never heard that again.
Right. Okay.
So that was how we ended up at Disney. And then what I was trying to say to you is I think that because we were young, we didn't have any mentors, no older men or women telling us, slow down, you have the pick of the litter, you can get any script you want. They rushed us into this movie, not meaning any harm to us. They were just excited to have us. And there was never a no while we were making it. And my brother and I, while we were in New York making it, we were up on the roof of 57th Street. It was right above the, I think, Hard Rock Cafe. We shared an office in the same building and we're smoking weed. And I'm looking at him like, something's not right. He goes, yeah, something's not right. What wasn't right is we weren't getting resistance. And when you get resistance making a movie, you know what to fight for. Mm-hmm. And like any creative person, and especially when you're in a collaborative form, you need a little bit of somebody questioning what you're doing. So I'm like, fuck, man. And then we get a call from the studio saying, oh, you guys are going over budget, gonna come back. We gotta figure this out. And at that point, we didn't give a fuck. We're like, okay, send the plane tickets. I'm like, no, just stay there. Just stay there. Everything's okay. And then we get through it all. And I think my brother and I look at the movie the same. Even though a lot of people consider it a classic in that time period, it's flawed. And I don't regret making it. I had a great time. You know, New York embraced us. That's when we, Russell Simmons of the world and the hip hop guys from out, even though we were out there doing music videos before, it was a great experience.
Yeah, it was a solid film. But, you know, you've said that until you can make a movie that's way better than Menace, you haven't done shit.
Well, how do you do this? You can take rap, you can take books, you can take any art form. If you come out of the gate with something like that, you're going to be living it down for a very long time, mm-hmm. Right? Of course, I'm technically better. You know, of course, even when we finished that movie, we had problems with Menace when we finished it. We didn't like Menace.
Really?
Yeah, we thought, oh my God, our career's over. Like 3 days in, because we didn't have the experience to know that you're going to have some good times and bad times on the set, and then there's editing, and then even when it looks bad in the edit, it starts to come together the last two weeks. 3 days in, I remember we looked at each other and said, our careers are over. And we started basically like ghost walking the rest of the movie because we were embarrassed. We're like, this is not good. Then we finished the edit, and they're starting to send early reports from like Newsweek and all these screeners, and there's glowing reports, right? I'm like, fuck, what movie did they see? So that was the head fuck of that first movie, is that it was the reaction we had hoped to get from the movie we had hoped to have made.
I mean, I personally like it better than Boys in the Hood.
Me too.
Point
No,
blank.
I'm joking. No,
I'll say it. I'll say it. I thought as a movie, it was a better movie. Just as, you know, as a standalone movie. Now, I understand the significance. You know, John Singleton became the first Black director to be nominated for for an Oscar. And, you know, I think he was, 20-something at the time. And
he was younger than Orson Welles. Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand the importance of it, but I think as a movie, I just think Menace was a better movie. And that's my opinion.
It took me time to come back and appreciate Boys because we were in competition, you know, back then. And when I looked at it years later, I was like, oh, this is a good movie. I understand what people saw. We were too clouded by our ambition back then. And I think Easy was right in some of what he was saying, not as biting, I don't think, but like it was a cautionary tale. And that's what you always saw in after school specials, you know, like kind of like, if you do this, this happens. And, you know, the wrong guy might get killed. And I like what they did, the Wayans did with Don't Be a Menace while drinking gin and juice. Right. So that movie comes out and they're poking fun at all the movies, especially Boys and Menace, right? And I'm thinking the shit they're poking fun at on ours is hilarious, right? The shit they're poking fun at with Boys is message, right? So I'm like, I'm glad I'm not that movie, right? So I go to a Mike Tyson fight in the 90s, and whenever that movie came out, and I'm sitting, I don't know, 4 rows back, and who's it, Marlon, the one that plays the...
Marlon Wayans, yeah.
Yeah, he's behind me, he's taps me, he's like, hey man, what's up? I hope you're not mad about that movie, man. I go, no, man, that shit is fucking hilarious, man.
Well, in 1996, Tupac gets killed in Las Vegas. I did an interview with Keefe D.
I've seen them all.
Which basically is the only firsthand account of someone who was in the car that was involved in the murder. And actually, just the other day, Keefe D's house gets raided by Las Vegas.
We were just talking about
police
all the big news. Yeah.
Yeah, like
27 years later. Really, what are you going to find?
Yeah, 27 years later, when he's written a book about it, when he's done multiple interviews about it, and everything else.
Got
like
Queen
that.
for a Day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the proffer agreement where he basically admitted to it to Greg Kading and so forth. When you and Pac, obviously, you guys have had a lot of success, but you've also had your differences and everything else like that. When you heard the news that Pac was killed, well, first of all, you first heard the news that Pac was shot in Vegas, which was, he got shot again.
Yep.
So most of us as Pac fans just thought, okay, he's just going to take the bullets and then do a song about it afterwards and brag and so forth. When you first heard about the shooting, what did you think?
I thought the same thing. I thought, well, you just took a couple, you're going to flick them out and make a record about it. Yeah. And then you started hearing pretty quickly that it wasn't the same.
Right.
But if you rewind, and I wish my brother would have told this story. Let me just say this. Okay. So like Snoop is catching a lot of hell now too. Okay. I'm sure you, because he's telling the truth about what he experienced back then. He didn't feel good about the way they last left off. And when Hit 'Em Up came out, Jimmy Iovine brought my brother and I into his office and played it for us. And we both had the same reaction. Jimmy, don't release that. It's a great track, but that's basically he's asking for something to come back. And I'm like, we knew that some would come and take Tupac. Everybody knew that, 4 or 5 years going up to that event in Vegas. But when I heard that song, I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. Not the claim that it came from What Camp or Not, because I do believe when you watch that murder rap documentary, you read a few books, you watch your interview with Keefe D, you watch his other interviews, and he gets he changes with the ring. Like he'll start saying, I didn't say that. And they're like, no, it's in your book. You said it in your book. That means it got ghostwritten, by the way, right? And he forgets what he said. My brother said something that's very much what I agree with. He goes, it's the uneventful details in his story that make you believe, and I fully believe that story, because he'll say something about like after we stashed the gun, we were walking on the Vegas Strip and we saw the ambulance go by. That was funny as a motherfucker. He goes, that was funny as a motherfucker. I'm like, only killers talk like that. The Iceman tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those little weird, ironic black details, black humor, and it made perfect sense. The crazy thing is like the confluence of like the people that were there that night.
Yeah, all the stories fit together.
And how you do that to that guy, the Lakewood, the chain, it's just like, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
how that all ended up, right? I would say I was shocked once they said when the actual death happened. Like, whoa! Like, there's the selfish side, which is we didn't really get to do face to face with him, and we made our peace through intermediaries. Is that the big word? And in articles, right? But we weren't able to do it in person. So that was the selfish hurt. Was like, wow, like that guy meant a lot to us. You know, doesn't matter. We had a little beef that lasted a couple minutes. That doesn't matter. Like that's nothing compared to like somebody, you know, that happening. And then all these goddamn conspiracy theories, like Sugar's the one that set him up. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, he's gonna be in the same car behind the guy that's, I mean.
Yeah. And the whole car was riddled with bullets front to back.
But who would do it? What gangster would even do that? Like, I'm gonna be driving, you guys come up and shoot him right next to me, and I'll be in the background of bullets. Like, it doesn't.
Well, he got grazed in the head.
Yeah, that.
Because I interviewed Chris Carroll, who's a first responder, and he said when he showed up, like Shug was just spraying blood out of his head. It was just chaos.
The guy sitting in the passenger seat, who turns out later to be Tupac, he kind of slumped out, came out with the door. So he's in the car, he's leaning against the door, and as I open the door, he kind of spills out. So he spilled out, and I just kind of grabbed him with one hand, and then I was pointing the gun at Shug with the other, because Shug is still trying to run up to me, and you know the guy's clearly a threat. He was also just absolutely gushing blood out of the side of his head, but he's acting fine. I mean, he's not incapacitated in any way. He's shooting blood out of his side of his head, and he starts yelling at Tupac, and he's yelling at him, "Pac, Pac," and he just keeps yelling, "Pac." And I can see, then I look down, I can see Tupac is trying to yell back to Shug, and he's just kind of not physically able to do it.
And then Shug was doing an interview in the office the next week.
Yeah. No,
Like,
the
that
whole
was
thing is
crazy.
crazy. And
Yeah.
then, you know, like when Orlando gets killed, he told, you know, they're trying to get a confession from him, and he said, "Fuck you" to the police, which is exactly
Tupac.
what Tupac said to Chris Carroll, you know, trying to get a confession from him. Like two guys who actually look somewhat alike also. you know what I'm saying? Like your brother even said someone should do a movie about Pac and Orlando. And
then
just
have
have
them
the
converge.
have the converge.
Did he say that? He said it on camera?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a movie.
That would be.
Okay, so then in 99, you guys did American Pimp.
Mm-hmm.
And what I didn't know until I interviewed your brother was that you guys got snaked by the guy who did Pimps Up, Hoes Down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pimps Up, Hoes Down was also popular back then on HBO.
Well, that is a sore spot, because that's a dear friend of mine that stole the idea and did it really cheaply.
Oh, he did it. Oh, because that came out before yours.
Came
Oh,
out-
I always
came
thought
out
that
like
American Pimp was
6 months before us, but it wasn't done before us. It was, you know, like the way I do docs, and back then me and my brother were doing docs, we take a few years.
Yeah.
And this friend of ours, who shall remain nameless, went missing. Because I was telling him what the offers we were getting on like 3 minutes of footage, and it was multi-million-dollar offers. And this guy just went missing. And the next thing I know, I show up to a Players Ball in Chicago, and there's my good friend that I fish with every other month at the Players Ball with a camera crew. And that took the wind out the sails, you know?
because that came out first. And then American Pimp came out second.
We had it killed for a year.
Yeah.
We were at a powerful agency who called up HBO. At the time, Sheila Nevins was a big executive producer. That was her domain, documentaries. And she did a bunch of dope documentaries for HBO for 20, 30 years, right? The funny part of the story is we're mixing Dead Presidents in right around here, right? I call up Sheila Nevins. I pitch American Pimp to her. I have it all written out, the ideas, flamboyant, this, that, Players Ball. And she was like, I don't know. What are people going to think about the Hughes brothers doing a documentary on pimps? I'm like, what do you care? You get it. Hang up the phone. I'm kind of like, the wind's out of my cell. They had already produced Hookers at the Point.
Ah, yeah, right. I remember that.
So
Yeah,
that
on
was the
HBO.
same filmmaker, or let's call it video maker. He was our location scout or location manager for dead presidents. And Alan was right about that story. As soon as he heard the figures coming out for the sale of an early version of like 10 minutes of footage that I shot in Super 8 film of Rosebud, that's when we show up to a player's ball. He's there with another crew. It's like, you ever see that movie Man Bites Dog?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like the opposing crew with the opposing killer.
Right.
Yeah, it felt like that, basically, right? So, yeah, there was a lot of interesting things that went on about, like, we wanted that to be 1,000 theaters. The distributors had it out against us because we wanted to sell it in Sundance like every other white boy did. They did not appreciate us going to sell a movie at Sundance. And we even showed early footage to Bob and Harvey Weinstein in a hotel room.
Wow.
And
Infamous hotel room.
yeah, we didn't get groped.
Did you guys show up at 1 a.m?
Came out of the bathroom.
Comes out in a robe. Glass of champagne.
But everybody knew that bullshit. But like, he goes, we'll offer you, Harvey, like, we'll give you $2 million. We'll give you $2 million now. It was only 10 minutes of Super 8 footage. And we're in our mind thinking, $2 million. If he's saying $2 million now, what's it going to be? We're like, no, we're good. So then we showed at Sundance, and that was the lowest point in our career, Sundance. Is that we broke the record for pre-sales on the tickets. They made a mistake of putting us in one of those small theaters in a mini mall. Normal people that go to the film festival had tickets. The distributors got fast passes and went into the theater, kicked all the normal people out. So it's a theater full of distributors who are pissed off at us. And they're like, fuck these guys. But that was also a lesson early on in, if you look at the movie, which is hard to find now because it's not out digitally, right? There's a key shot in that movie where a black guy's in bed with 2 white girls. And I stupidly cut away to him slapping one, like, tapping her thigh. And that black hand on that white thigh does a number on white people, right?
Okay.
So the difference between doing a documentary about pimp and the blowback that we got, which was like insane blowback, right? How dare you guys glamorize that? It was like, change the history channel got 10,000 Hitler documentaries. Nobody gives a fuck about. Change this other channel, 10,000 mafia documentaries, people getting killed. Nobody gives a fuck about it, right? The minute you have a black guy pimping on a white woman, it's like, it's worse than murder.
Worse than murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I went to a player's ball and I was dressed up and people thought I was Mr. White Folks. Like, people literally were walking up to me.
Oh, I remember Mr. White Folks. He was.
Okay, so then 2001, you guys do From Hell, starring Johnny Depp and Heather Graham. Now, at that point, Johnny Depp is the biggest movie star that you guys had ever worked with.
Oh, yeah. I thought you would. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, even to this day, he's one of the world's biggest movie stars.
Well, there's a difference between he was the biggest that we ever worked with at that time, and him being the biggest after Pirates after that movie.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, because before he was doing that was during like the Edward Scissorhands kind of oddball
like,
kind of.
Studios didn't really want to put him in great big ass movies, unless he was playing.
I see what
like
you're saying.
Yeah.
So he wasn't Johnny Depp at that point.
He wasn't Jack Sparrow yet.
He wasn't Jack Sparrow yet. You're right. That's what put him on.
He didn't have bubble money yet.
Didn't have that bubble money. Okay, and from what I understand, the fights between you and your brother on set were insane. Johnny Depp even talked about it.
Yeah, you got that interview. It looked like a family fighting on a porch. Did you get that one?
I think so, yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about twins or brothers is that when we were younger, it was brutal and serious, and the animosity went on for days. And he always mentions I would throw VCRs and TVs at him, right?
Okay.
Like, I would throw VCRs and TVs at him because he was 20 pounds heavier than me, and he would always body slam me. So I'm like, I don't know karate, but I know crazy, right? So if I act crazy and start throwing VCRs, then he won't want to fight anymore, right? So that's when we're younger. When we get older, the fights looked intense, but we'd get over them really quickly. And also we're twins, so there's a language going on, and there's all kinds of crazy shit going on. And what they were seeing was not what they were actually seeing. Let's put it that way. It wasn't as vicious as it looked. It just it was our language of fighting.
Okay.
And then we're also young and trying to communicate. And he's stubborn, I'm stubborn. It goes back to even us and Tupac and us and whoever we worked with back then. We're young, And then you got the twin thing and identity crisis and all kinds of bullshit that goes, that.
Well, right, because after doing that film, that's when you guys kind of took a break and you moved to Prague, right? Because Prague was filmed. Well, you guys filmed From Hell in Prague,
Yeah, we filmed
right?
in
So
Prague.
then you ended up moving back there and
vowed
living
when
there.
I did the movie, I would never come back there again because
Okay.
I hated the experience.
Only to move there.
So you would understand this. It's like, you ever see that HBO show Chernobyl?
I watched part of it.
Dude, you gotta finish that shit.
Oh, is that good?
That shit is dope.
Okay, I'm
That's
gonna
one
watch
of the
it.
dopest. You seen it? That's one of the dopest shows in the last 10 years.
Okay, I'm gonna watch it for
the
sure.
reason why you gotta watch it is because you're from the Ukraine.
Well, I actually grew up not too far from Chernobyl. I always think that if we didn't move, I might have been probably dead by now because of the
Even if
the
you lived in neighboring
radiation.
countries, there was a cloud that was moving over Europe.
Exactly. Yeah.
The reason you need to watch it is because if you understand the way that post-communism worked and the bureaucracy and all this, it's real inside kind of football, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a different show to you than it will be to Americans, right? Even if you move when you're 5, you understand the mentality because you probably still have family back there, right? No, I vowed once I did From Hell, we wrapped, never to go back to Prague because there was some shit that I saw there that I really wasn't ready for, right?
Okay.
I didn't realize that it's a thing I told my daughter. You can't beat Europe. Europe will beat you. If there's things you expect because you're American, get over it.
Right.
It'll teach you a different gear, basically, right? So I would go back and forth because my daughter was young at the time, which I regret now. I just regret it. But at the time, I was also running from a lot of stuff. I'm biracial. We're successful. We're being recognized. That thing you mentioned to me earlier about, why you're not on camera, that's actually a smart thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you're, especially young, you're older now, so you have a more mature mind. It's like, especially if you're biracial, it's like, are they looking at me because they're racist? Are they looking at me because they know me? Are they coming with good intentions, bad intentions?
Yeah.
That's what fame can do to you.
Yeah.
Right. You just start to get freaked out. So I'm like, I'm out of here. Plus all this stuff going on in America, like everybody has to deal with all this craziness, racism, sexism. And now when I was in Europe, I go, wow, I'm around a bunch of white people who might be racist. They might be prejudiced. They might be jingoistic. They might be nationalistic, right? But they don't have a history of hating me. So once I have a beer with them, it's gone. And they've never done anything to me. I've never been pulled over by them. I've never been beat up by them. And they just know they got bigger fish to fry because they've been around for thousands of years. They got China in their house that's older than our fucking country, okay? I'm drinking out of beer mugs that are older than America, okay? So that puts things in perspective.
Okay, so you moved to Prague.
Yeah, that's my long answer. Sorry.
No problem. And are you still living out there?
Yeah.
Okay, it's been how many years now?
Unofficially, 20.
Damn.
20.
Okay.
But I'm always back in LA, or I'm like in Portugal or Budapest, depends on work or whatever. Like I can never stay in one spot too long because I'm also misanthropic. I forgot to tell you that part.
Okay, so then in 2007, Book of Eli.
2000.
That's when you get the script for Book of Eli.
Yes, that's right.
And you and your brother reunite to do that together. You had a problem with it originally because you're atheist,
Yes, sir.
as am I.
You did some research.
Yeah. And you had a problem with sort of the whole biblical overtones of the book. And it was really a very religious story. I mean, it's based on the Bible, essentially.
Yeah.
And originally you said no.
Yep.
But then I guess you had a dream about it and you said, okay, actually, I'll
What the hell are you reading?
I'm the fence.
That's accurate. That's actually accurate. Yeah.
I'm the fence. I know everything.
That's right.
That's
I got to
right.
ask you some questions.
That's right.
Yeah. I want
Okay.
to know about Tyrese.
Tyrese.
What the fuck is that?
I know. What the fuck? Okay. So you guys decide to take on this film. At what point did Denzel sign on to be the lead? Was that always like part of it, or did that come later?
No, it's interesting because now we're going through that actors and writers strike, right?
Aha.
And there was a
okay.
strike, remember, back in 2007 or 8. I think it was a writer strike. It may have been an actor strike. I forget, right? Warner Brothers had Book of Eli at first. Joe Silver had it at his company. They And Joel Silver is always very smart about how he gets a movie made. You get the star, you got your movie, right? They say if you get Denzel, Warner Brothers, you got a movie. Because they were nervous about the religious stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So we meet Denzel at the Palm, when the Palm was in Santa Monica. And he's so excited because he goes, I get to eat lobster, right? So we start talking about it. And at a certain point, I admit that I'm an atheist. And my brother gets mad at me later. Like, why'd you say you're an atheist? You know he's religious. Like, I just want to know who he's dealing with. Like, whatever. I don't believe in lightsabers either, but I like that movie. So we kind of bag him. And what Warner Brothers does is start to try to nickel and dime him down. And they start pissing Denzel off. And because the strike is coming, he gets chased off to do Tony Scott, one of those train movies. Pelham 1, 2, 3, one of those, right? So he was at 20, Warner Brothers like 17, 15. He's like, fuck this, boom. I'm going to do this Tony Scott movie. So we lost him. Then I'm in Prague. After we thought we kind of had a movie, it's in development hell at Warner Brothers. And I'm like feeling like George Washington Carver over here. I'm going to die broke, penniless, and insane. And I literally am walking through the streets with a backpack on and my gym clothes. And I'm like, I'm going broke. This is a wrap. And get a call that Alcon wants to make the movie. If we can get Denzel, they'll pay him 20. And within 1 week, we're at White Sands doing a location scout. So we're back at it because an independent financer came in, took it from Warner Brothers, although Warner Brothers distributed it, and saved the movie, basically.
Okay. And at this point, is this the biggest actor you've ever worked with? Because he had already gotten an Oscar. Was Training Day already out by that time?
Yep.
Okay, so he's had 2 Oscars under his belt.
Because Glory is the first one, right?
Glory is the first one, and then Training Day was the second. So now you have this megastar.
Mm-hmm.
Now you said you had problems trying to direct him because he was a superstar and he was going to do it the way he wants to do it. So what was really the issues on set with you and Denzel?
It really wasn't like I've done a few interviews where I probably overstepped and said some things I probably shouldn't have said, because for the most part, he's one of the smartest guys I've ever dealt with in business. He's a gem in prep and he's a gem in post. When he's in actor's mode, he's got 1 foot in method and 1 foot in reality.
What does that mean exactly? What's method acting versus the other?
Well, like, you hear the stories about Daniel Day-Lewis and all these other guys that you got to call them by the character name. And, they're kind of so inside their character that they behave like their character even when they go home. Mm-hmm. And that's their way of acting. That could be quite disruptive to other actors or other collaborators. Okay. Some know how to do it, without being disruptive. And I can't say that Denzel was disruptive, but you have to remember Denzel's history too. Like Hollywood Shuffle, there's a scene in there that basically is Denzel's history. Can you be more Murphonic? Can you be more like Eddie Murphy? He dealt with that. And he developed like a pretty tough skin and a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And that kind of thing he went through, it never left him. And he's a very proud man, right? So when he comes on the set, he lets you know, he's the 800-pound gorilla. So there's 2 ways you can deal with it. You can either go confrontational, or you can play Jedi mind tricks.
These are the droids you're looking for.
Or you can be diplomatic. And for the most part, like I said, he's very, very professional. But there's some days that are, I'm being honest, there's some days that are not easy, And at that time we were 36, 37. So we're men, but we got through it and we had fun. And the thing I love most about him is that when he's in the edit, he's not like some other actors can be this way. We're like, where's my lines? Why'd you cut that? He was like, no, cut that. Keep it moving. Right. He didn't have any ego when it came to himself,
Well, your brother said that he got to see some epic fights between the 2 of you on set once again.
Yeah, that was probably the worst. That was, there was one particular day I would say it was the worst fight we ever had in the set. Yeah.
Was it like a fist fight?
No, it never got to that.
Okay.
We were too grown for
But it was like a screaming match?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and that movie came out, it was a success. It was an $80 million budget, and it made $157 million worldwide in the box office.
I don't even know. I just know we had $38 million opening weekend, and niggas are different after that.
You started to feel yourself after that?
No, I mean, the niggas, they look at niggas differently after that. Like, You get a $38 million opening weekend, you're not looked at the same way, in a good way.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, after the first movie, the studios were very kind to us too. Like we were getting offered Batmans and Supermans, but we knew we'd messed those movies up. We weren't ready for that.
Oh, you actually were offered these big
Oh yeah. After
superhero
Menace,
films.
it was a wrap. They offered us everything.
And you guys turned down what? Batman?
There was one time they approached about Batman, one time they approached about Superman.
In retrospect, do you regret turning down
Hell
those films?
no.
Really?
No, not at all. Because that would have been the last movie we ever made. Because we were not capable of doing that.
Okay.
And that's not in us. And it never felt like a second thought. There was no second thought about it. That's not for us.
Fair enough. Okay. And then in 2018, you had your first solo feature film with Alpha. $50 million budget, $100 million at the box office.
It was actually $83 million before taxes, 63 after. But yeah.
Okay. Did well. And it was a very different kind of film. It was basically based on how humans and dogs kind of linked together in ancient times, and it was nothing like Menace, basically.
No.
Very different.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, you did The Good Lord Bird, which I started watching recently.
Yeah.
Starring Ethan Hawke.
Yep.
It was about this character named John Brown, who was an abolitionist that was going around the South freeing slaves and getting into various gunfights. And
Yeah. Have you, it's from based off a book?
yeah, it's basically the book won like a Pulitzer, I think, right?
Yeah. It's you should read that book.
Was it hard as a black man to be part of a project where the dialogue was so racist? Lots of N words with the hard R's, and you know what I'm saying? Like I kind of cringed, like watching some of this stuff.
That's a great question. I'd say that because I'm biracial. No, and if you read the book and know the material, the author is biracial, right?
Okay, I didn't know that.
And the actor who's playing Little Onion is biracial, right? You have John Brown, who's a white man. And, okay, so let's be honest about it. For years, Tarantino's been getting the pass. And as an artist or a creator, you should be able to do whatever you want to do in your movie. I'm not saying he shouldn't, okay? What I'm saying is he has a perversion about that word, okay? And which is quite different than Scorsese with the Italians in the back room saying the N-word when that's how Italians talk, where that feels quite real, right? This is like, the interesting thing about Tarantino's movies are they actually, if you really think about it, they have no real social nutritional value, right? Which is fine. 90% of the movie business is based off of things that don't have any social nutritional value. So he's doing it in every movie, and it makes me uncomfortable, but I'm not saying he can't do it, right? Then you have this thing that's dealing with slavery and a biracial lead, and it's dealt with humor and black humor by a black writer. And I'm like, okay, now I'm the filmmaker, let's go, right? So I'm telling a white man, hey, you need to start insulting him. Can you use the hard R? Really? I can do that?
No, they get excited when you say that.
I can do this. You have
Ooh, okay.
like, you have to do it because that's really what happened back here, right? And it's based off of historical figures, although it was like Mark Twainized in a way,
Right. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It was like a Mark Twain era kind of thing.
It wasn't in the end. I will say this because I don't want to. It was a bittersweet project for me because of one reason, and I don't want to get too flammable. What I'm about to say right here is you have to be careful with black stories that are controlled completely by white people, and that smoke screen you into believing that you might have control in telling that story. Or smoke screen you into believing something else when something else is going on over here. Like maybe an actor wants an Emmy and he's going to use this black project to get that Emmy, and everybody's a pawn in this game, you know? And that was the first time in my career I learned a hard lesson of like, I've never been used for my race. I never felt I was used for my race. And I go, oh, I'm out.
So they put you in that project because you're black, and they would allow them to do a bunch of racist stuff and say,
No.
oh, look, the black guy is behind it?
No, not that. No, not
that?
at all. No, what I'm saying is it's like the inclusion thing they have going now, where they say we're going to diversify. What do you call it? What is that shit called?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Diversity, yeah, DEI, right? That's what it's called. And all these people are now quitting or getting fired or layoffs after George Floyd, Hollywood was gonna, oh my God, we got to get inclusive, and we all knew that was a joke. That wasn't going to happen, right? Now they all left the company or been laid off, right? It's cover for the Black story, not cover for the N-word. It's cover for the slave story. So let's hire a Black woman, a Black man, blah, 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 and we'll put a few Black writers in the writer's room. But the people that control that, it was an interesting eye-opening. Like, I never thought I would be in that kind of position, and I'm proud of the story, and I'm proud of the work I did, and I'm happy it's out. I just don't think that. I think they were good, well-meaning liberal white people. Okay, and sometimes what's more dangerous than an outright racist is a good, well-meaning liberal white person.
Right.
Okay.
Who's got a Black friend?
Yeah, exactly, or a Jewish friend. I got a lot of European American friends.
Okay.
By the way.
Okay. I mean, it was a very, very well put together project, I have to say. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I've gotten like maybe 3 episodes in.
Yeah. You should read the book.
The book. Okay. So then 2023 rolls around. Your brother does Dear Mama.
Mm-hmm.
You watched it?
Yeah. Watched it 3 times.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I remember me and him were talking before our interview.
Yeah.
And I remember after watching the last episode, I was like, what you did with those Pac acapellas over the sparse instrumentals
Atticus,
was brilliant.
Yeah.
And as me being, somewhat of a filmmaker myself, I was just like in awe. Like, why did I think to do some shit like this? You know what I mean? Like,
it brings new meaning to the word.
it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Because you're so used to that beat.
Yeah. And like I told him in our interview, I've probably done more Tupac-related interviews than anybody on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen every documentary, and I think that was the best Pac project that I've seen.
Yeah.
In terms of documentaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
there's been like half a dozen or a dozen of them.
like, you get a glimpse of it in the Defiant ones. Like, when Tupac comes in, we're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely.
And then this comes out, and I thought he did a beautiful job. And again, to speak to the stands out there and not the real fans, I'm talking about the stands that have, they'll say things like, oh, Alan Hughes didn't do this. He done shit on his legacy. That's my brother. Okay, I'm going to defend my brother. People make the mistake of thinking because someone on camera said something in an interview, they now are blaming the filmmaker for that. Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff that's out there. They're mad at Snoop. They're mad at my brother for like little reasons. But if you look at the whole of it, you go, oh my God, this was done with love and care and attention to detail.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not be intelligent enough to know you want a whitewash documentary, or do you want what the mother wanted and what the sister wanted and what Tupac wanted, which is like, we're going to tell the ugly truth about everything, basically, right?
That was very well done. And there was parts about the Feeney story that I had no idea.
Oh my God, that was mind
Watching
blowing.
her sing at the end, and really, and I've interviewed some of the Black Panthers that were around her and so forth. And
defending herself,
like the whole story, how it merged together, and how your brother, we talked about how he kind of based it off The Godfather 2, the way it showed the flashbacks, but it wasn't continuous. You know what I'm saying? It would tell the story by jumping back and then jumping forward.
The coldest edit in that documentary, because I know editing. It was episode 2 at the end when the old man was sitting in the backyard. He was like, Sadie was playing the song Sadie, and it drops, and that old man goes, Tupac shot the police in the ass. And then Sadie picks up again. The police are limping and, all jumping into a car and being driven off. I'm like, that's a cold ass edit right there.
Yeah.
Because you take that song against that image, and that man is like, yeah.
No, man, great filmmaking. Okay, so this takes us to the reason why we're actually here.
Oh, shit, you took this long to get to this?
I know, right?
Yeah.
The Continental, which is essentially a prequel to the John Wick story.
Yes.
Okay. Now, whoever hasn't seen the latest John Wick movie, just go ahead and turn it off right now. But the Continental gets blown up in John Wick 4 near the beginning of.
But then they said they'll rebuild it.
They're rebuilding.
They will rebuild it for
We
him,
will
right?
rebuild.
Yeah.
Right. But this is basically the hotel where all the assassins go, and they meet up and they do their business. But there's very specific rules about what you can and can't do in this hotel. So you actually did a 3-part series about the Continental, which you directed 2 of the episodes.
The first episode and the third. Yeah.
They got someone from Lord of the Rings to do the second one?
Well, it was before she did Lord of the Rings, I think. Charlotte Branstrom.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Got
But
it.
she's been around in TV for years. She's actually worked, she started her career before me. Like
Okay.
She was working in the 80s. But wait, I got a question before you go any further.
Okay.
Have you seen all 3 John Wick films?
I haven't
Not
watched them
3.
all.
No, I mean, all 4
I'll
now.
jump in and out.
Oh, you haven't watched 1, 2, and 3?
I haven't watched them. Yeah. Like on my plane in Dubai, I watched most of 4, but then I fell asleep near the end because it's a long ass movie. It's like a 3-hour movie. You know what I'm saying? But I am a John Wick fan, and I was excited that this is actually coming out. What made you actually decide to jump on this project?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I think when COVID came and we were all locked inside, and I just got up doing the Good Lord Bird thing, which is dealing with generational trauma to the 10,000th degree, right? Menace II Society is dealing with generational trauma, right? Dead Presidents is dealing with generational trauma, right? The stuff that even my brother's doing now is dealing with multitudes of trauma, right? So there was something in me going, I just want to have fun. I don't want to be attached to anything that's in reality. And then they approached me, the 2 producers from the Wick series, and said, we got this thing, and we wanted 3 feature films for streaming, prequel, to tell the story of how Winston came in control of the Continental Hotel in New York in the 1970s. So at first I was telling my agent, like, no, I don't want to go and play in somebody else's sandbox. But then I started thinking about Rogue One, what's his name? Noah Hawley that did Fargo series that the Coen brothers did.
Yeah.
You have Tony Gilroy. I go, oh, wait, these guys actually did something interesting with material that was IP already out there. So let me look at this. And then I go, okay, I want to escape. And I know the audience wants to escape. Let me go have fun. And what happened was when I made it, I had the time of my life. I've never had more fun on any project than doing that, because all that, the stress that you carry around when you're doing, whether Alan's doing Dear Mama, or whether we're doing Dead Presidents, or whether we're doing Menace, it wasn't there, because you can start making up rules.
Well, it's all fiction. It's
all
not
it's
based
fantasy.
on any sort of reality or historical event or a certain person. No, this is all made up.
But there's a freedom in that.
Yeah.
And there's a playfulness to it and a fun to it and a kind of an originality that comes inherently with you have no rules. So when I started shooting it, I called the producer up, they were still finishing John Wick 4. And I said, I just shot this crazy scene today. It seems like whatever I do, nothing's crazy enough. He goes, yeah, that's the thing about the John Wick world. Nothing is ever too crazy. You can do whatever you want, basically. I'm like, well, this is refreshing. There's no kind of rules. There's rules. There's codes to the John Wick universe.
Yeah.
You can change a rule to your liking, or you can stick to the rule and play with inside of it, but there's no rules to the kind of playfulness of it all.
Right, yeah, because the thing about John Wick is that you will have like a gunfight or a knife fight in the middle of a disco, and no one will stop dancing.
Until the end.
Until the very end.
Yeah,
like no one's noticing that someone's getting stabbed and blood is gushing out of their neck.
It's a loud disco.
Everyone's just still dancing, like right next to the person. It's like as if nothing's happening. But that's like the stylistic thing about John Wick. Am I right though?
You're saying almost verbatim what I'm saying, because sometimes I break it down because I'm like looking at it for research.
Yeah.
And then the last one in particular, there was a big disco scene where they all, but that's actually pretty consistent with the films. Mm-hmm. It's a very stylized kind of a conscious choice that Chad and Keanu do,
What was the budget for each of these 3 episodes? Because this looks like a blank check. Like when I was looking at it, it just looked like do whatever y'all want. Like,
did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I did. But it was, it was really of the quality of the movies. And sometimes when you see like a series or a prequel, they have to, take a few zeros off of it.
Yeah,
but it seems like in this case, they went all out.
Well, there's 2 reasons for that. One is like in normal TV, even one of your favorite shows, whether it's Sopranos or whether it's Handmaid's Tale, you name it. They're usually shooting about 10 days per episode for an hour, right? And they're doing more episodes. They're doing 10 or 13 or whatever, right? So that money gets spread thin, and they're bringing multiple directors and yada, yada, yada. This was actually brought to me in a different way. It's like we want 35-day shoots, and we want 4-week down period to prep the next one. And then 14 weeks prep, which is even healthy for a big budget movie, right? They didn't have the budget of like, let's say John Wick 2, 3, and 4, but it was very healthy and I never felt the pinch. Plus you have a concurrent second unit going on. You have the same group, 8711, those action guys that design stuff with Chad and Keanu. So you basically have the same DNA from the movies, the same care. And you're right. In the end, I have to say that Lionsgate was really, and Peacock too, they were very supportive, probably more supportive than I've felt in a long time, where I would say, I really need this. And I'm like, okay,
Right, because Keanu Reeves actually is not in the series at all.
No, because it takes place
before.
Let's say 1978, 9, and it's in that hazy area of the 70s because I wanted the music, right? And I especially wanted disco. No, he would have been like John Wick. The character is a lot younger than Keanu, the actor. Like,
right.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, he would have been a baby, basically.
Yeah, he would have been like our age or maybe younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's like Keanu is special, and he's a singular character, and he's also a singular actor, right? So there's no way you can replicate that guy in the 70s. It's more, the show is about, it's focusing on how Sharon and Winston met and how they came to be in control of that hotel, and then all these kind of more colorful characters that are introduced. And then some of them lead to the characters that are into the John Wick films. Like Larry Fishburne's character is hinted at in there.
Right.
And there's a ton of like Easter eggs in there for the Wick fans, yeah.
Mel Gibson, did you decide to cast him, or was that already done by the time you arrived?
No, that happened when I was on.
When you were on. Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go with Mel Gibson?
Because he fit the role perfectly, right? He has his history in cinema. He's a director. He's a passionate kind of actor. If you've seen, some of it. I mean, I'm a Road Warrior fan, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's Braveheart fans. I'm a Road Warrior guy. I'm a Lethal Weapon guy. Joe Silver is one of my good friends. So I thought he was perfect for it, And when I worked with him, I'm like, oh my God, what everybody says about working with him is true. Like the dude's with no ego. He's talking to the extras or the PA, and he stays on the set. He doesn't go to a trailer. And I also was learning from him, his technique, which is he knows how to, when you're in rap, when they say he's punching in, he does that with acting. That's crazy. Like he knows how to boop, 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 and he knows editing. So it was actually quite fascinating doing that, especially you're in, shooting in Budapest. Oh,
that's where it was shot.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy. New York and Budapest.
So how did it feel to finally wrap that up? I mean, because like I said, you did 2 out of the 3 episodes, but you did the first and the third. So really you're kind of responsible for the overall project coming together.
In TV, it's different. You can have showrunners, which are writers that overlook everything. Or you can have a lead director work with the showrunner, and you have to finish all the edits, not just your edit. So I had to quality control the edits, the sound mix, the VFX, all the songs that are picked. It's because I consider myself a filmmaker. I'm not a director, right? And a filmmaker to me is all encompassing. It's not a very simple thing of coming to direct actors and tell a story. You have to put yourself in there. It has to be very personal. Every choice has to be personal. So you also have to make sure that the middle episode is consistent stylistically with the other 2. So that was an interesting thing. And also what I found interesting is because it's a hybrid. It's like features and streaming TV. Is that, oh shit, we missed that one thing they did in episode 2. Let's go put that in episode 1 now. We can do, it's this weird kind of chess game you can play with the edits. That is quite interesting in TV that you don't get the chance of doing features.
Right, because it seems, because John Wick dies at the end of John Wick 4, but it seems like...
But does he?
But does he? But it seems like they're really going forward and having... Because there's something else that's coming out. Ballerina, exactly.
Ana de Armas next year, yeah.
Exactly. So it seems like they're not done with the John Wick series by a long run.
They're not done with the universe.
The universe.
Yeah. Or
exactly.
If John Wick is dead or not, if there's going to be a 5th John Wick, it's what do you call it? What side would you land on?
I feel you. It's complex.
Yeah.
It's complex. So, because this is coming out, this is not out yet. I have a screener of this, but this is coming out when? September?
September. Yeah, and you're releasing this around that time,
Around that time.
So you can actually talk more freely, right?
You can talk freely.
Yeah.
You can say
you can talk shit about my movie if you want.
Exactly. Exactly. So, are you planning on doing any more John Wick stuff after this?
I wasn't planning on it. And then the further I got away from it, I go, I would entertain the idea of a season 2. or humor the idea, right?
Mhm.
Because of how much fun I had, how much I love the actors that were involved, how much I love my partner, the showrunner, Kirk Ward. That guy who was partnered up with me, I couldn't have asked for a better partner in the TV space. And it's not really the TV space. That's what's so weird about it. And then where we're headed, as you see in this business, we had COVID that shut down all these theaters, right? They're barely getting back on their feet right now. I'm talking about the health of theatrical, right? You got some of the best stories being told on TV, some of the best actors going, some of the best writers going, some of the best filmmakers are going there. Why are they going there? Because there's something that COVID did. It accelerated what was already going to happen. Is that adult dramas or interesting, dangerous things are being pushed on TV, and there's only enough room for superheroes, IP, and tentpoles in the movie theater.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the writing is on the wall. Like if you have any kind of flavor, you want to say or do anything interesting,
You go to TV.
you got to go to TV. So that's kind of like it's a long answer to your question about season 2. It's like I got another thing I want to do that I was trying to do in the 90s based off of an Iceberg Slim book. It's not Pimp. But there's another thing I want to do that we tried to do in the 90s, my brother and I, right? But it wouldn't fit inside 2 hours. So now here we go. Okay, let's see if that's going to work.
No, I mean, the music, I mean, I remember when I heard the theme song, I'm like, oh, what hip hop song is that from?
You're talking about the Baby Huey Hard Times. Hard Times, which you're probably more familiar with.
Who sampled that?
Well, you're going to listen to Curtis Mayfield version. Because Curtis Mayfield wrote that, right?
Okay.
Baby Huey, I think, produced him. And Baby Huey, do you know the story about Baby Huey?
No.
Okay, he was like an artist that did this whole album that nobody paid attention to. And years later, after he died, it became popular on the underground, right?
Okay.
So that particular song, Hard Times, was a song that I think Curtis Mayfield wrote and maybe even helped produce it, right? After that died out, Curtis did his own version. I love Curtis Mayfield's version. That's the one I found during Dead Presidents, right? And I heard this one you're talking about just recently, the Baby Huey version, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff in there that's been sampled, though. Like that's what Al and I would do for Menace and Dead Presidents, is that we would hear a walking by the sample that MC8 used, or we would hear a sample in DJ Quick song. We find the original song and put it in the movies, basically, to let the younger audience know where it came from. And then there's disco, which everybody was kind of going through that I hate disco, shitting on disco, the late 70s, early 80s. And then you read a bunch of op-eds about it. It was more about like black, queer, they're just trying to shut that movement down. Disco's dope. So that's the other thing.
Well, I actually looked it up. Murder After Midnight by the Ghetto Boys. What it was.
Not that one.
Not that one. But yeah, but that was one of the artists that sampled Hard Times.
Oh, okay. You talking about the Baby Huey version or the
I think the Curtis Mayfield version.
Yeah, that's the more popular version.
Yeah.
But
the
that's
Baby
also,
Huey version came out in 71.
But that's also like if you look at the soundtrack, what I was able to explore that I wasn't able to explore in those other movies is like the biracial side. My mother listening to classic rock. My father is James Brown and Motown, and so there was that kind of bipolar music taste in the house. And for the first time, I'm able to mix them up. And then you lived in New York. New York was one of those cities. San Francisco's a little like it, but not much, where you're rubbing elbows with all these different cultures and different sounds, and you're able. That's what's wonderful about placing a movie in New York, is that you can put this eclectic group of music together, and it feels kind of natural. Whereas if you did this, it was a hood movie. That's not going to work.
No, absolutely,
Santana.
Man. Yeah. No. Absolutely. No, but I thought it was, it was a great series, but it was stylistically a little bit different than John Wick. I felt like it was less of a kung fu kind of, sort of a base. Like, how John Wick is very much of sort of an Asian kung fu kind of
like
influence, but set in an American, European kind of setting. This one, not so much.
Yeah.
Was that a reason behind that?
Yeah, when I first was approached by Basil Iwanek, who's one of the producers, and Erica Lee of the movies, I said, "Well, what are you guys looking for here?" And they go, "Well, we like it to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more in reality, a little, back then in the 70s, New York was a little more grimy." And I'm like, okay, well, shit, that sounds like fun. Because if you look at the Wick films, which I'm a huge fan of those films, like they're just so fun. you have to look at how do you reverse engineer that.
Mhm.
Because I would never want to come and duplicate that. What Chad Stahelski and Keanu do, that's what they do, and they do a great job at it. Like, it's not worth doing a TV series if it's going to look like every John Wick film. That's not what they wanted. So that was the fun part to me. It's like, we get to go back to the 70s. And then I think the third thing they asked for was like opening up more mythology inside the mystery of the hotel, basically. Yeah. So, the reason why I told you earlier why I had so much fun with it was there was nothing socially attached to it. It's escapism, and it's needle drop city. You get to have fun with music, and when you interviewed my brother, and he was talking about music, and you asked him a question, and he goes, I think he answered it like he starts with music.
You know, we even talked about how strong the soundtrack was in Dead Presidents, and how successful the soundtrack was. I think it went platinum or something, right? And there was
Menace
two.
platinum, Dead Presidents platinum, American Pimp not platinum but up there, and he was right about one thing and wrong about another thing. I gotta say, as you always said during your interview, I'm gonna clear the record here. I'm gonna set the record.
Mm-hmm.
He actually was very much spearheading the soundtrack on Menace. Okay, that was his thing. Dead Presidents, I would say so too. American Pimp was a combination of both of us, but he was the overlord, right? There's a difference between him laying claim to needle drops in the films, where he's saying, yeah, and Albert collaborated with that. It's like, no. It was beyond collaborate. Like, some of those sequences are designed and shot list and storyboarded by me with that song in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to parse that because I think sometimes he gets a little confused. The history.
Well, plus Menace had an original soundtrack.
Yes.
All new songs, which is a lot harder than taking a bunch of huge hits.
But then it also
the
had,
70s.
don't forget, it had a Marvin Gaye song, and it had Computer Love, it had Atomic Dog.
That's true.
So
intermixed with the other stuff. But, but the soundtrack was mostly original.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the needle drops because there's a difference, right? And sometimes you can have them both. Like, what other movie has Atomic Dog, and Computer Love in one movie? Air, okay, the recent movie Air did, okay, and where did they get it from? Probably Menace, okay, because it's not an overused song, but that's always what we kind of started with the rhythm of music and what the music is for the show, and what we can introduce to the audience that they haven't heard before, especially with this generation. Man, you got to deal with all these goddamn knuckleheads you be interviewing, man.
I know, right?
Jesus Christ, man, I hope you got a therapy.
I do actually. I do actually. Well, look, man, great series, and it's like a whole new cast. You know what I mean? And it does pay homage to some of the characters in the actual films, but it's like a whole new set of actors.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With a whole new storyline. It's all intermixed. It's a lot of different stories that are kind of intertwining with each other. And, just seeing how big of a project it was and how grand it was with so many moving parts and so many episodes and so many different characters. And,
that's why you're asking about the money part.
I know, no, it looked expensive. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, this looks expensive, especially like, the overall lighting and the way it feels, the way it's dark and kind of neon throughout the series. It's not like the whole thing is in shadows.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, but it works stylistically the way.
Mysteriously murky or silhouette, or
exactly.
It's not hard light.
No.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah,
at all. Like, I don't think was there anything shot in daylight at all, or
there was, but even that has because Vlad, we're emulating also 70s film. So what I had to do is find these lenses that are actually made in the 1950s that are shitty lenses. Okay.
Oh wow.
From MGM and Pathé that Panavision had in some back room that hasn't been dusted off since the 70s, right? So those lenses that you saw from that show,
wow,
shot Cool Hand Luke,
okay,
Dr. Zhivago,
okay,
and The Graduate.
Damn,
those are the exact lenses. Okay, so you take that, which nowadays they take these really perfect glass, as they call it, right? These DPs want this pristine glass. If you take imperfect glass and then you add grain, you add all these kind of things, there's artifacts that go on when the light hits it. So it was all about kind of giving the impression of a 70s movie. Although I will say 70s movies, because I hated that style of lighting, it's very hard light.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like hard light. I only like it in a noir film from like the 1930s or 40s, basically. Yeah.
I mean, the writer's strike is going on right now.
Yeah.
The SAG-AFTRA has their strike that they just ran.
Are you SAG-AFTRA?
I don't think so. The only thing I've really done was like
You would have a
the
card.
Boondocks.
You would have a
No,
card.
I get a check from SAG-AFTRA every so often, but no, I don't think I'm actually part of it. It's actually interesting because just the other day, I guess all the trees that were giving shade to all the picketers.
Oh yeah, I read that today.
By the studio. So now, like, the sun is like shining on them. What's your take about the strike?
I think pay the writers, give them fair health benefits. Do everything they're asking for is something fair. I saw a quote the other day ago that said, "What the actors and the writers are asking for is 2% of the gross profits of all these studios. 2%.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got these execs making 250, 27 million, 150 million, $100 million. And I'm starting thinking about this, about the artists that are involved in this. Like, you can correlate this to the dope game. Okay. What good is a dope dealer without the dope? Okay. The dope dealer can't make the dope. They can step on it, which is what studios do anyways, right? They step on the product. Okay. But they're not making the dope. They're distributors and they're funders, basically, right? So where did we get to the point where one executive almost clears $500 million or $250 million in 5 years, and the top talent, like Tom Cruise or Chris Nolan or whatever, James Cameron, doesn't even make that, okay? Shouldn't there be a rule that as an executive or a CEO, you never should make more than your top creative talent, who's the one that actually makes it? Because a CEO doesn't own the company. An executive doesn't own the company. The shareholders own it, or there's a single owner of the independent company.
True.
So you have this capitalist, this big disparity, right? Then you have all these quotes coming out that are pretty heartless. You read them, and people are struggling, and they're the creative people. You can't run this business without writers or actors. You just can't do it. Oh, AI, that's a ways off.
No, listen, I understand. I understand both sides because I'm also an employer, and at the end of the day, I don't necessarily see a problem with the CEO making more than the talent, because the CEO ultimately has his neck on the line for a bunch of different projects that are happening. If you're an actor and your movie bombs, you still get your money.
Yeah, but you might
go
not
on to your next project.
No, you might not though. That's the game in Hollywood.
Well, but if you have a guaranteed.
No, you have your guaranteed money for that movie.
Exactly.
But if it bombs big and your next one doesn't do so well, your career may just go down.
This is
it may
true.
be over. Executives change like underwear, by the way, okay? They have like a 5-year shelf life, okay? Or sometimes 10 or 20 if they're really good.
Unless
okay?
you're Disney. Which
Yeah, I know
could stay on forever.
Some of those top guys
Yeah.
can go around. But studio heads shuffle, know, and get different jobs. I just don't think, I don't know, because I'm in the creative side of this,
Exactly.
and you are too. It's like, I just don't feel right. And I'm not trying to make this too controversial, but like, I don't feel right when there's a business, and the music business has done this for years, where they take advantage of the people who are creating what they sell. Okay, take for instance publishing in the music business that Prince was really into, and let's say you write a script, you write your original script, right? Is there any scenario in today's modern game where you shouldn't retain at least 2% ownership of that script without a complete buyout? Why can't the writers, this is not even on the table, by the way, but this is just common human sense. That person created that. There's no ownership.
Listen, I get it. And I remember when I first started in the film industry, my first documentary, Ghost Ride the Whip, I wrote and directed and produced it, essentially. And I have yet to see a royalty check from this project.
Yep.
I got like $25,000. It took me 6 months out of my life. I was starting VladTV right around the same time. And I remember at the end of that process, I said, fuck all this. I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm not going to have these big budgets. I'm going to start small, but I'm going to own everything.
You own that drum set behind me?
I don't own the drum set, but I'm renting it at this time. Right. But all the films, all the documentaries, interviews, whatever that I do, I own them outright. And it was just a slower route. It took 15 years to get to this point, but I understood that over time, I'll be better off not taking the upfront money, keeping the ownership, and creating a catalog and creating my IP, which is essentially what all the movie studios do anyways.
Yep.
They keep coming out with these projects and they own all the IP, and every so often they'll put it back out. Or
but those guys are different than you. They're not actually physically making it.
But they're financing it. I'm not doing every interview myself either, but I still own every interview.
Oh, I saw you outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
I'd be seeing you outsourcing.
I'm outsourcing. And at the end of the day, I mean, you know, and I talk to friends who are writers, like my man Carl Jones. You know, we talk about this. It's like, yo, you could sit there and keep fighting the system and say it's unfair, it's unfair, it's unfair. We're going to picket, we're going to strike, whatever else. Or you could say, listen, technology is evolving, and it's time that maybe I should just shift my focus and start creating my own stuff. And say, fuck these studios. Let's start creating my own stuff. Let's start doing smaller budget stuff, you know, because a great story is a great story. No, you don't agree with me on this?
I agree with you in theory.
In theory?
Yeah. I always daydream about like grab my camera. Like I shoot shorts in Prague on my own because that's my hobby, right? But I don't have all the resources that I do when I have 100 people or 150 people, right? But I get great joy from it. And I do it to train because that's my love, right? And I've done 200 of them. No one sees any of them, right? It fills my soul. It's not paying the bills.
Well, because you're not trying to make it pay.
I'm not monetizing.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. But then
the reason why I'm behind the camera is because I started out holding the camera.
Yeah.
And I started out editing the video. Yeah. And I started out uploading the video. And I started out writing up the titles and everything else like that.
Oh, the clickbait.
All that stuff. And over time, I have people that do it for me. But it took years and years and years to get to this point. So my whole thing is like, yo, like I understand things are fucked up and people who are great at what they do are not getting compensated the way that they feel they should be compensated. But this is an opportunity where you say, fuck it. If you're great at what you do and there is an audience, you don't have to go through these limited amount of resources.
That's true, but your average actor can't do that. You know, only 5% of them actually make somewhat of a living in SAG, right? The writers, let's not even talk about that. They're even worse off, right? You're talking also having a business sense. Most people aren't born with a business sense. So you're talking about, especially creative people. Like I'm terrible with trying to think of avenues of how to make money and stuff. I just want to do what I love, right?
I feel you, you know, but you know, when you compare it to the music industry, for example, you say, oh, you know, like these original record deals are unfair to the artists and so forth. They're unfair to the guys who blow up. But for the 90% of the projects that a music label puts out that lose money.
Yeah.
And the people the artists and producers who are involved in those projects that lose money, they don't have to pay anything back at that point. They got whatever their advance was and they get to keep it. And when you have such a loss rate, yes, the people who do blow up will not get the best deals and will feel like they got ripped off and everything else like that.
The history of publishing, that's really complicated. And also in music,
it is very complicated.
You can actually now with technology make your record and go direct to consumer if you're smart enough. It's very similar to what you're saying.
If you have a fan base, and that's the whole thing. If you build a fan base, and it takes a while, and it's a longer route, and it's not as glamorous, and so forth. But you know, I mean, the reality is that a lot of these people that I've met who are really famous, and everyone knows their name, like I do financially better than a lot of these people. You know, even though I have just a small YouTube channel and I'm not considered like a big Hollywood guy, but at the end of the day.
Well, you now got a slider in your game.
Exactly. I got sliders. I got 3 cameras. I got 20 people on staff.
I actually thought you were punching in until I came and talked to him. I thought you were punching in on like a 4K on your close-up, but it's not a punch in.
Nope. So listen, I understand both sides of it, and I hope it ultimately gets worked out. But I think that the people who are striking, they really need to take a strong look at what's happening because you're not going to stop technology, right? You're not going to stop AI. You're not going to stop, you know, special effects, you're not, you know, and so forth. I mean, like they're getting to the point where you don't even need sets anymore. You could.
Yeah, I think the argument is that they don't want to be their likeness used in perpetuity without being compensated. And then there's the other flip side of that too. It's like, I think the creators, writers, and directors, and even actors want to be the ones in control of the tool of AI. Mm-hmm. If you start saying the studio's in control or these AMPTP is in control, they'll start having these little farmhouses like Putin does with disinformation. There'll be these little houses with little minions in there doing their thing that are under directive from executives and have nothing to do with the filmmaking process, the acting process, directing process, the writing process, right? And it's going to be like some small kind of offsite experiment. That's what they're actually, I think, fighting against. Like you as a filmmaker, if the studio says to you, we respect you, can you use this tool? We won't look over your shoulder while you look at it, but just use it. It's your discretion. That's what I think is fair.
We'll see what happens, man. I mean, I hope it ultimately works out because I'm a fan of Hollywood and I love Hollywood projects.
Do you like movies?
I love movies.
Okay.
I love movies. Okay. So before I let you go, there's a Prince story you want to talk about.
Yeah. Because I was telling a story before you came in here. So we're hot off of Menace and you're going to make your rounds. Everybody wants to meet. Madonna wants to meet. Right. And that's even an interesting story, but won't get into that. So we're in New York and we get a call and they say, Prince wants to, before you go to LA, he wants to divert you to Minnesota and meet you guys at Paisley Park.
Okay.
So this is right after the release of Menace, like a couple months later. And so we get in this limousine and they go down this long road. There's lakes. It really is the land of lakes. We go for like an hour and a half, and then we pull up to that white building, the one he eventually ended up dying in, because he didn't live there when we met him. And at this time, my brother and I had been kind of raised never to be starstruck, because we were walking freak show ourselves, like biracial twins, whatever. And we had already met a lot of people. So we walk into the building, and my brother is a massive Prince fan. Like, he wore out Sign of the Times when we were younger, and I just hated that album, okay? Because my brother would have it on loop. So we're walking in, they take us upstairs, they open these doors, and I'm thinking Prince is going to be in, a t-shirt and jeans. He was in full get up with pumps, with the zipper, with the symbol on it, like beautiful blouse, beautiful makeup, smelled beautiful, was standing behind a glass table, right?
Okay.
So he sits us down and he talks like a nigga. He's like, well, how y'all doing? Boom, boom, boom. He talks like a real, like it's not like proper, right? And so he's talking to us, and then at one point he goes, hey, are y'all thirsty? Are y'all thirsty? We're like, yeah. We're in there by ourselves, a big ass office. He goes, y'all like Snap? You like Snapple?
Snapple.
Yeah, y'all like Snapple? Like, yeah, we like Snapple, Prince. Okay. Then we continue to talk, and 2 minutes later, a woman walks in with a platter full of Snapple, and it puts it down, right? That was the first weird. By the way, there was doves when we walked in. Down in the lobby, there was doves flying around.
Wait, actual doves?
There was actual white doves, okay?
Wow.
I forgot that detail.
Were they crying?
No, they weren't
No,
crying.
they were not crying. Okay.
But it's a play on When Love Dies, right?
Oh, that's what it is?
He's a Joni Mitchell
When
fan.
Love Dies, when doves cry.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's this whole thing. Okay, so, and then he starts talking about this movie he wants to make. And at the time, he had already changed his name. He recently changed his name to The Symbol.
The Symbol, yeah.
But he never said that. And he may have even had the slave thing on the side of his face that he did with his beard. And he had the MPG. Remember that rapper Tony that they had? Mm-hmm. Remember the rap he was trying to do? They were doing some.
Yeah, I missed that part.
Have you ever seen the video Gangster Glam?
No.
Dude, you can never unsee this video.
You can never unsee it.
You got to search for that after you're done with this.
Okay, Gangster Glam.
Yeah, Prince in a bikini thing, like a kind of a Borat bikini thing.
Okay, like a slingshot.
And he's kind of struggling at the time because he hated rap. And he had to succumb. So anyways, New Power Generation had this rapper called Tony. And he's pitching us the story of, I want to do this movie about a positive story about, music business and, the executives and how they fuck you, but He started going on about positive. And my brother at one point just goes, Prince, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what to call you. But he goes, oh, that's okay. I just changed my name because when they call up, they don't know who to ask for. Right? So my brother's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Prince, you're talking about this positive stuff in this positive movie. Have you seen our movie? Which was Menace just came out.
Right.
And he goes, nah, but I saw y'all on a senior. I goes, nah, but I saw y'all on our senior hall and I dug what you had to say. I'm like, okay. So he goes, I got this money right here in this drawer. And he was doing this. And it was a glass table, so we can see his hand. There's no money. So I got this money in this drawer so we can make this movie, right? And, we already know we're not doing this, right? And he goes, yeah, come with me real quick. I want to show you something. I want to take you on a tour. So he starts walking us around Paisley Park. And instantly, I look at his little booty because it's like the size of like a 10-year-old kid. And he's tiny. Like you can literally grab his ass like this and pick him up, okay? You'd be shocked you've heard stories about how small this man is. Like it's shocking. So I forgot to describe when I walked in that I'm prepared for t-shirts and the jeans. When I see him in full regalia, I'm like this for 10 minutes. Like, I can't believe this nigga. Like, oh. Anyway, so he takes us down to the rehearsal hall, and New Power Generation is jamming. And there's a piano there. And whatever the song is they're playing, I don't know what it is. He jumps on the piano and just starts fucking around. And it goes from a 5 to a 10. Just like that. I'm like, I've never seen no shit like this, right? So we walk out, and he hands me a CD. He goes, I want you to have this. And I take it, and I instantly know that his fingerprint is on it. It's inside of a case, but I see his little tiny man fingerprint, right? So I'm like, okay, this is worth something. Put it somewhere safe and don't play it. Because back then I didn't know that this laser won't get rid of the fingerprint, but maybe the felt thing will when you push it in, right? So I'm holding on to it, and then I'm also thinking that my brother's the big, huge Prince fan. He's probably pissed, and we probably had a fight about it. And I'm like, no. So I call up my daughter's mother from the payphone inside Paisley Park. I got the CD. I got this little man's fingerprint on it, right? That proves that he gave me the CD. When I get back, put it somewhere safe. Don't play it. Okay? Get back. There's some other part of the story, but whatever. Get back home, give it to her. She supposedly puts it somewhere safe, right? Years later, I'm up in Canada, in Alberta, in bumfuck nowhere, shooting Alpha. I'm at a craft service table, and the crew's starting to act real weird around me. I'm like, what's going on? My cameraman's next to me. He's like, so what's going on? He goes, nothing. I go, dude, what's going on? He goes, Prince just died. I said, what? He goes, yeah, Prince just died this morning. I said, well, why wouldn't you tell me that? He goes, well, we were told that if we told you, you'd probably shut down the shoot for the day. And I go, no, not me. My brother would, but not me. I'm good. Let's go. Blah, blah, blah. But then I call my kid's mother. Find that fucking CD. She doesn't know where it is. And to this day, we don't know where it is, but my daughter's still searching for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's my little tiny Prince story.
Prince was 5'2", by the way.
Yeah, I know exactly how tall he was. Same height as her mother.
Right.
No, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about even the height. I'm talking about the width.
Yeah, he was.
Not about the height.
Grab his waist with one hand and just lift him up.
His waist was like this, dude. It was like, and he smelled beautiful. Jamie Foxx does that routine about meeting Prince. That's all true.
I mean, listen, he was the only male artist to wear pants with his butt cheeks hanging out, and no one really thought he was gay.
Nope, because he wasn't. First of all, he wasn't, and he was so in touch with that female side, and
that's what I'm saying. Like anyone else, they're like, "Oh, he's this, he's that." People are like, "No." They go
back to the Dirty Minds on the stage with the leg warmers and bikini and the trench coat.
Oh no!
If you go back and look at the videos,
crazy with Prince,
dude is like wearing pumps the whole time.
Yeah,
and that's what led to the drug addiction. Really, it's all the hips.
I interviewed Morris Day.
Yep, I saw that.
And we talked about it. I guess, was it the interview with him or was it with Apollonia? I forgot which interview this was, but I guess because he would always wear heels on stage, and I guess he did the splits and he fucked up his legs real bad.
And then jumping off the speakers too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
the rehearsals, because he was a crazy into rehearsals.
And that's what got him on the painkillers, yep. and
then the illegal, what do you call that? What's that thing that's fentanyl?
Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Yep. Ultimately killed him.
And you couldn't even tell. He was one of those guys that was an addict that looked like his lights didn't go out. You know, sometimes when people have that dim look in an interview.
No, man, he looked great.
Yeah.
He was thin, he looked healthy, but you just never know.
And Purple Rain is still my movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But Under a Cherry Moon, man.
Come on, that's a given. Although that soundtrack, I think Adore was on that soundtrack.
Possibly.
Adore is a dope track.
Albert Hughes, man, I've been such a long time fan, and you're really, you and your brother are definitely, a small group of people that really influenced me to do what it is that I do today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, watching films, because that's the whole thing of like, like for example, when, if you're a rapper and you hear someone say something that you would not have thought to say yourself, you're like, oh, wow, that's so, like, that's rapping, that's art, that's inspirational. Like when I watch the films that you guys put together, like I was talking about, like Dear Mama and the acapellas, or the opening scene to Menace II Society, it's just like, it's like moments like that, you know, or the, you know, you done fucked up. You know, it's just like, it's things that as a filmmaker, I would have never thought to do, but to see it actually play out and work so well on the screen makes you say like, yo, I want to do something as epic as this one day, you know, in my own way. Cause I don't do scripted at all, you know, but I feel like you're
the Mike Wallace of the culture now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like, you know, it's not easy to sit down with someone in real time, a total stranger, and talk to them for
No, you don't even do a warm up. You don't even do the warm up.
No, you get right into it. And it's one take, and it better work. And you know what I'm saying? It's like it's telling a story, and it is a documentary in its own way without all the B-roll. And it's like, but watching what you guys do was like, yo, this is so dope, and it's so different. And I never would have thought to have an opening scene like in Menace. You know what I'm saying? To have it to be so impactful. Like, what'd you say about my mama? Like, I remember sitting in the theater and watching.
You saw it up north?
Yeah, in the Bay.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, in college. Yeah, we watched it. You know, or the closing scene where.
Were you did you go see it in Oakland or were you
in Oakland? Yeah,
really?
Think of the Grand Lake Theater.
Wow.
In Oakland, yeah, absolutely. Or you know, where Kane is about to finally leave town with his, you know, with Jada.
You knew what was going to happen though.
You know, and it was like, you know, that one guy that he stomped out earlier in the film.
The feeling you're talking about having is the same, and I read a little on you too, and I don't know if it's true about like your response to NWA when you were younger.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if you literally look at that movie, that's the same feeling we had going into the movie. It's like, double burger with cheese. Come on, you know that skit. That's a direct ripoff from an Ice Cube skit. Okay. And there's so many moments in there that are influenced by hip hop and our kind of aspirational want to be filmmakers and not being influenced by our contemporaries, but then like Scorsese's and Coppola's and Sergio Leone's, and then you have hip hop on top of it. You know, we were just, I think when I look at what you do and what I do, and we're in similar in age, we're lucky to be doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Albert Hughes, man, truly an honor.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see
I'll be back.
You'll be
Arnold,
back?
like Arnold. Yeah, because I probably forgot a bunch of shit.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But don't be doing that stuff on me too much. Don't be letting these niggas talk.
Not too much.
No,
every so often though. We gotta do a few of them.
That one motherfucker was not there. Okay, no.
That's what it is. Peace.